Nice beaver.
Thank you. I just had it stuffed. I'm not bad. I'm just drawn that way.
Fuck you! Fuck you! And fuck you! Who's next?
Well, would you like to know where you'd be without us, the old US of A, to protect you? I'll tell you. The smallest fucking province in the Russian Empire. That's what. So don't call me stupid, lady. Just thank me.
I'm an excellent driver.
Is this moron number 1? Put moron number 2 on the phone.
You doing the litmus configuration?
Litmus configuration.
Yes.
I'm alive!
Hi, I'm Chucky, and I'm your friend to the end. Heidi-ho.
I lived through the Black Plague, and I had a pretty good time during that. I've seen The Exorcist about 167 times, and it keeps getting funnier every single time I see it. Not to mention the fact that you're talking to a dead guy. Now what do you think?
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Welcome, everyone, to a special bonus edition of Voices and Visions, as well as the Directors Club podcast for the yearly tradition of reminiscing and reevaluating a particular year in film. It's a fun endeavor we started 3 years ago in 1985, and we plan to continue all the way up until 1999. We go back 30 years, as always, which brings us to 1988. And of course, I could not embark on this journey alone. With me are returning champions, both members of the Chicago Film Critics Association, regular contributors to WGN Radio, the captivating Collin Suter.
Thank you.
And host of Movie Madness, of course, the ebullient Eric Childress.
Did you look that word up looking for an E adjective for me?
No comment.
Okay.
So guys, 1988. The year that Hustler magazine challenged Jerry Falwell in court. Microsoft released Windows 2.1, which might even be better than Windows 10. George H.W. Bush was elected. The top song was Roll With It by Steve Winwood. And we can still laugh at the wacky sitcom antics of Bill Cosby. What was 1988 like for you, individuals?
For me, it was, just in terms of... Well, I was a high school student, so first half of the year freshman, second half of the year sophomore. As a movie watcher, I always think of 1988 as like the last year of these formative years for me as a movie watcher, and becoming more of a serious movie watcher, and kind of turning away all the not all the, but a lot of the mainstream sequels and stuff that are marketed towards people in my age group, and saying, no, I'm actually more interested in the art house and weird stuff, and unless I hear that a movie is pretty amazing,
sure.
then I'll go see it. So, but I like 1988 as a movie year. It's such a mixed bag of like great comedies and really depressing dramas and everything in between.
It's definitely a mixed bag is a great term for 1988. It wasn't a year I was like stoked to cover again, but as I went back, I was like, there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not dismissing it. I think I'm even more excited about the next year that follows.
Okay,
but no, we got a lot to cover in 1988. Eric, how about you? Where were you at in 1988?
Well, I was in mostly 7th grade that I remember, and so I'm not really anywhere. Because, I don't know if you're anywhere when you're in 7th grade.
Not really.
You're not a year away from graduating. You're not in that moment.
Sure.
You're not in high school, so you're sort of in between, middle school or whatever it's called at that time. And my memories of this, I remember a lot of video store visits. This particular year. Elk Grove Cinema had been reopened for about a year at this point. It had reopened in 87, so got to go to the local theater. Woodfield Mall and Woodfield 1 and 2 were still primary things, but now we had something a little more local, and it was a dollar show. So got to catch up on a lot of things that we normally wouldn't go to spend, $5.50 or $6 or whatever it cost at the time. So I just remember the video store was a lot of visits to the video store.
Yeah,
I would say that's true for me. Like, I kind of vividly remember as this being the first year where I went to a video store and multiple copies of a movie were available to me, and it was the type of video store that had all the movie boxes, and behind it would be the little plastic case of the VHS, and whether or not it was in or not, you had to hope for the best. And my dad and I in particular, I mean, Die Hard came out, in July? Because I remember us...
July or August?
Yeah.
I swear I have a vivid memory of us going to the video store in 1988, like late, maybe around even Christmas time. But I don't think Die Hard would have come out that quick, right?
July 15th came out. Yeah, no, I mean...
Because the turnarounds aren't what they are today.
Very different.
Right.
Yeah.
It's about a 6 month turnaround is usually the norm, unless they wanted to really get something out for the holidays or something like that.
Yeah.
You get a quick turnaround, maybe like a rare case like that. But normally about a 6 month turnaround and then a year before it showed up on cable. That was usually the regular schedule.
Yeah, maybe it was like around Christmas that Die Hard came out on video. I had to look that up and see for sure, but video stores were definitely where I went. I don't think I didn't have as many like trips to the theater as much. I mean, I turned 10. And it was not like the most it wasn't an eventful year. There wasn't a whole lot going on with me other than I'm just being me and kind of like I'm excited to watch movies. I'm excited to rent movies. I'm excited to see them, but I don't have like vivid memories the way I had with other years of going to the theater to see something. That might change as we go through the list here. I mean, obviously, there's a big title later on by a particular director that we all love, Zemeckis. That, of course, I went on opening night. It was from the director of Back to the Future, and at the time, that was probably my favorite movie. So it made sense.
It's a fine
to be
choice,
excited.
if I do say so my damn self.
Yes, of course. But yeah, we got a lot to cover. We certainly,
And for people who might be like us, who are like release date geeks or whatever, and we're going off the list on boxofficemojo.com. So we're going by movies that were released in 1988 in the States. So if you're wondering why haven't you cover this movie in 1980, I thought this was a 1988 movie. Well, we have box office numbers that tell us, that these movies came out. Because there's gray areas with certain titles.
There certainly is.
Yeah, beginning and end of the year for the most part.
Right. So that's why we're going off of this, because it's pretty legitimate.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if you want to follow along, go to Box Office Mojo, and let's begin, guys. There's a lot of titles to get to. Last time it took us 4.5 hours.
Okay.
So now we're going to go for 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
Every year we'll go up maybe a half an hour longer.
Right.
So the first title on the list...
Well, let's say we're going month by month. We're going January. We're starting with January. We're just
it doesn't have an official release date for it.
Right, there's a few on here that don't have official release dates because the data just isn't available for some reason.
Are you all right? You're drunk! You almost killed my boy! You stupid, reckless... I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have been the one to keep him from jumping. I was his best friend. I should have been aware. I should have known.
So Permanent Record was a really interesting film for me to see. Post Pump Up the Volume, though, this was, I want to say I saw this, on video, maybe 92, 93, around there, but it really affected me in similar ways that Pump Up the Volume did, just because it's about teen suicide, and it took it very seriously, and it has one of my favorite Keanu Reeves performances. I mean, I think that he handles the drama really well. He starts out as like kind of, bumbling Bill, or the guy he played in Parenthood, just kind of just a regular guy who's into music and stuff. But there's certain points in this movie where he just explodes with emotion, and to me it doesn't feel forced or sentimental. It's a really, really, really special movie for me.
I watched it a couple nights ago based on your recommendation. I'd seen it in the theater. I haven't seen it since, and I think I liked it in the theater, but I got to disagree with you on the Keanu Reeves thing, though. That's
not good?
No, I really don't. And I'm not one of these people who piles on Keanu Reeves for everything. Just it automatically sucks because Keanu is in it. No, I'm not one of those guys.
Yeah.
Keanu can do John Wick, Matrix, all that stuff. That's all good.
My Own Private Idaho is good.
The later Keanu is much better than the early Keanu.
Right, but I'll even go. Keanu in River's Edge is good.
Sure.
But this one, it's like, he's still early in his career, so he doesn't have a persona yet.
Mm-hmm.
But now going back to watching this movie, this movie has not aged well because it is Bill and Ted Keanu. It is the Parenthood Keanu, and we need a better actor at the center of this thing because this is a good film.
Yeah.
This is a well-written.
It's well written.
It's beautifully directed. It's got otherwise good cast. I feel bad for Michelle Meyerink, who's in it.
Yeah.
Because she's already played like 3 or 4 college students before this,
Yeah.
and now she's being relegated back to high school, and she looks miserable. She looks like, what the hell am I doing?
Looks much older than her. Obviously, she looks much older because she's older. But,
right.
Yeah.
But it really shows here. And so, like, the Keanu performance was a real sore spot for me with this movie when I watched it a couple nights ago. But other than that, it's unfortunate, but...
Okay.
Yeah, Collin,
sorry
Collin,
to deflate your enthusiasm, but
Collin reached right into my brain on this one because I watched the movie again, and the first half hour of this movie, when it's focused on the boy who's going to commit suicide, the first half hour of this movie is really good.
Yes.
Like really good. Like, because this movie it's a suicide film that has no answers. It's shrouded in mystery, and that's a great way to approach. It has there is a suicide note, but it doesn't explain what happened.
Right.
And after he takes a step off that cliff, it becomes a Keanu Reeves performance. And Collin's absolutely right, is that there are moments even when he is forced to, like, there is a big breakdown scene with a car scene that doesn't come off very well to begin with, and then it's silly. Just like the boy, he's in the basement, then he's in the road. It's like, really, kid? Like, stay indoors. And there's a lot of that body language that Keanu was doing at that time, and
he's
it's
relying
just
on those ticks. I understand,
right? And then to top it off, and then it comes down to like a performance of Pirates of Penzance, and it's just like
that part is the weak spot for me.
It's
too.
It's really weak, and
But then
it
Jennifer
saps
Rubin's
up.
singing.
I like that.
That's
That's fine.
Well
That's fine. Not the first Jennifer Rubin film we'll be talking about.
No.
But it's a good film despite Keanu.
Okay. At least you like it.
Yeah.
I was like worried.
Because the setup of this movie is so strong. The setup of this
Yeah.
movie is so strong, and it made me wish that there are actually flashbacks to this kid's life because, or just make the entire movie about him and then have him take a nosedive off the cliff.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I still think it's great.
Okay.
But it's no Pump Up the Volume, which if you guys
No.
wind up disliking very much, that'll be sad.
No,
better movie.
Okay.
For some reason, Platoon Leader is being streaming on Hulu, and I watched it. I'll just read you my notes because I wrote down things as I was watching it. This is Canon's answer to Platoon. This is what happens when a B grade or Z grade film studio tries to be prestigious by making a Vietnam film, which is this is Michael Dudikoff and Platoon Leader. So these are my notes. Pretty sure they filmed this in Iowa. You can tell they didn't have money for all your usual 60s Vietnam songs, so a lot of the rock songs you hear in the background sound like public domain rock songs from that era. I don't think that's a real black man in that scene. The composer really likes the opening bars of Beat It. That's the whole score. We're an hour in and no Wilhelm scream. F this movie. I'm pretty sure this is a movie about Michael Dudikoff being a platoon leader. Anybody watch For Keeps? Am I the only one who watched For Keeps?
No, I will never watch For Keeps again.
I think I seen it once when I was younger, and
it's not very good. But I was happy. I remember when they referenced it on Gilmore Girls once, and that kind of like floored me that somebody referenced For Keeps in any capacity.
Because it's so obscure and bad. And
it is pretty. I would say it's awful. It's not the worst baby movie of that era, but
It's pretty bad.
I mean, John G. Avildsen directed
Randall
it.
Battenkoff, 2 words.
Right. Oh, I know.
Randall
No, he's terrible.
Battenkoff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, written by Tim Kazurinsky, directed by John Avildsen. It's not...
Tim Kazurinsky, oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's not very good.
And just for the...
And by the way, not the worst Molly Ringwald movie of this year either. We'll get to that later.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just for the Permanent Record. Permanent Record came out in April, and Platoon Leader came out in October.
Okay.
So we're jumping around a little bit. We're going to clear up some of these. We're filling... If Box Office Mojo, if anyone's listening, we're helping you fill in the blanks here.
Yes.
Okay.
I gotta say, revisiting some of Dan Aykroyd's comedies from this year, I kind of went, I don't think I like Dan Aykroyd that much.
Movie that proves you're not the only schizoid maniac on your block.
The buses have been categorized as to particular condition and ailment. Premature ejaculators, non-ejaculators, and retrograde ejaculators on board, please. Nymphomaniacs, don't let me out of your sight.
A movie that will help you find yourself.
I'm not sick.
I just need space.
I finally found a place I fit in as well as I do the Nut House. Beverly Hills.
So if it's been years, months, days, minutes, or seconds since you've really laughed, we urge you to seek professional help. Dan Aykroyd.
But I don't want to escape with you. I hate you.
Walter Matthau.
I can accept that.
Charles Grodin.
You had sex with one of your patients.
Donna Dixon. The Couch Trip.
Let's go to the Couch Trip. We were talking about the Couch Trip.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
I don't like it. And it's got an amazing director, Michael Ritchie, who's given us some of the best
good cast, too.
comedies and satires
Really
of
good
all
cast.
time. Oh, yeah, great cast. It's just abysmal, though. I mean, it's kind of reprehensible in just like how it represents mental illness, and similar to like Crazy People with Dudley Moore later
and the
on.
Dream Team.
And the Dream Team. Oh, yeah. But some things about that are kind of funny.
Michael Keaton.
Yeah, of course. But, I mean, again, like, I don't know. Like, I mean, Dan Aykroyd did great on SNL, but a lot of his, especially where he's the lead, I just don't like him as a screen presence. And here it's just, I don't know, just doesn't work from the start. Just doesn't at all.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to revisit this movie. I remember
Vudu if you
I remember
watch
thinking some of it was funny at the time because I was a big fan of Dan Aykroyd, and to this day I'm still a big fan.
Big Nothing But Trouble fan, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, I know. You're smarter than that.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to talk about The Boost?
Yeah, I have to talk about The Boost.
Okay, please do.
Because 1988 was a big movie, and there's so many movies that had to deal with drug addiction or alcohol abuse or something this year. And this one I revisited because Roger Ebert was a big fan of this movie. I thought he gave it 4 stars, but apparently he only gave it 3.5. That's too much. Because The Boost, this is James Woods and Sean Young. Infamously 2 of the most difficult people ever to work with. James Woods he's good with directors, but sometimes, I mean, we know what he is today, but even back then, we knew Sean Young was very difficult to work with. And now you have these 2 presences in one movie together. And by the end of the movie, you feel that like Harold Becker is just not yelling cut. He's just letting James Woods punch Sean Young into oblivion by the end of this movie. But watching this movie, especially after seeing a couple of the other movies about abuse this year, this one really is the reefer madness of drug movies at that time, because it starts off as a movie about the yuppie, it's the post Wall Street yuppie culture, the hedonistic lifestyle and whatnot. It's 40 minutes in the movie before he even takes his first line of cocaine. Okay, so it's really like the back half, and this movie is 90 minutes long, and it moves like this so quickly that it becomes comical. That at one point he's talking about, like, I just, what my commission is on this deal is $26,000, and the next scene, I just bought a plane. Like, what? Wait, what? Really? Really? Like, what happened between? I know $26,000 was a lot more money back then than it was, but like, I don't think you could buy a plane after that. It was a prop job. It's just a little prop job.
Anti-Wolf of Wall Street, where it's 3.5 hours.
This movie's kind of anti everything. Yeah. It's kind of a parody of that Wall Street American Psycho like culture at the time, and then it becomes almost a parody of the people getting high and getting addicted to cocaine, because he gets addicted really fast. There's a scene where Sean Young falls down the stairs that I couldn't help laugh at because it's so comical. It never felt real. It felt like, and it has one of those 80s jazzy scores. Like, it almost, at times, it almost sounds like the score to Roxanne. Okay, and at one point, Steve Martin gets a shout out in a scene with John Capellos in the movie. So there's that too, and it's just like every time someone does something cocaine-y, the jazz score like, and it's just like it never comes off as true to me. And James Woods, I know, crazy as he is now, still one as dynamic an actor as I've ever. I mean, he's always watchable, and even in something like this where he's completely going over the top, he's still very good in the movie. Sean Young, maybe not as much, but he's still very good, and I just wish that the movie had more of a sense of its own self.
That's a shame, because there's plenty of other great examples that we'll get to.
They're much better,
of
much
this
better
type
movies.
of film.
Mm-hmm.
So one of my all-time favorite movies came out this month, and not a lot of people know about it.
Rent-A-Cop.
Right, exactly. What the heck, people? Get on that. No, Five Corners is this movie that was written by John Patrick Shanley.
You're so determined to kill yourself one way or the other.
I'm gonna die tonight, Mom. Who am I?
You're my little Heinz.
Taking him out. What's your boy gonna do tonight?
He's gonna die.
And it came out on the heels of the success of Moonstruck, which was, pretty much one of the flavors of the day at that time. And I think it came out right after Moonstruck. Well, I don't worry about dates later, but it came out when he was up for an Academy Award for Best Screenplay and eventually won. And this, I remember renting this movie just based on that, because I liked Moonstruck so much and I liked his writing so much, and the poster looked really weird to me, and I just looked interesting. And it was the first time I remember seeing a movie that was more common now, where you have like 3 or 4 different storylines going on at once, and then they all converge at the end somehow. It was the first time I ever saw, or first time I remember seeing John Turturro. And discover. I felt like I discovered John Turturro, because before this he was little bit parts here and there, but I never really remember seeing him. But this, he gave such a commanding performance. He's basically the villain in this film, and like a great screen villain. Jodie Foster, she was in this movie before her comeback, which would happen later in 1988. And Tim Robbins was still kind of on the fringes of, not many people.
Howard the Duck.
Well, but not many people knew who he was. So, it's just like this beautiful, kind of quirky, really funny, kind of sad, just everything just kind of put in a blender. And I hadn't really seen a movie like this before, and it really just left a big impression on me. And it's unfortunate. It's one of these movies that has been in this kind of copyright limbo where, I think Canon, or Warner Brothers Canon, which was what it was at the time, put it out on VHS, and then it just been kind of relegated to being this public domain film that would come out on these obscure labels. Criterion did put it out on a Laserdisc, but they haven't touched it since. And Lionsgate now has the DVD rights for it, and they put it out on DVD. Still looks like crap. Nobody's really done right by this movie except Criterion. So I'm pleading with Criterion. I know you're never going to hear this, but please put this movie back in your collection, even if it's just a movie-only edition. It's like this movie needs to look good, and it just looks like crap right now, unless you have a Laserdisc player and the Laserdisc. This is one of my favorite movies of this year, and I wish more people could discover it.
I've seen it once, and it was not the best quality.
Yeah,
and that really disappointed me. But the acting is really strong, and I'm with you on Shanley as a writer. I think he's great. So, But it's been a while since I've seen it, and I've been waiting for a proper Blu-ray to come out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was never as high on it as Collin was, but that's all I'm really going to say about it. But it came out a month after Moonstruck. Moonstruck was still number 3 at the box office when this movie got its very tiny release. So
yeah,
I'm a big fan of The Serpent and the Rainbow, and I just wonder if I'm just going to be this guy for all of these episodes. It's just I have to defend all the horror movies.
Because this is a good one.
Okay,
this is a good one. Yeah.
No. Well, I know, but it's like Dream Warriors, The Gate, and all. It's like I was listening back to our
those
other
are
episodes.
not good ones.
No, they are. But Serpent and Rainbow is definitely one of Wes Craven's very best movies.
In the shadows of the imagination lies the ultimate nightmare.
Don't let them bury me. I'm not dead.
It's just creepy. It's just there's this eeriness to it all, and I saw this on the big screen recently because Music Box does the Music Box of Horrors every year. And, seeing that scene where he's buried alive on the big screen was just, I was grabbing my seat like I was watching it for the first time. And maybe it does get a little goofy in the last act because I know the writer of the original source material, who was, also a doctor who went into Haiti, I think, and... he wrote this kind of
Pullman's
memoir.
playing in the movie.
Playing
that character.
Yeah, and he really was not a fan of maybe him trying to Freddy Krueger it up later in the film by turning one of the guys in this movie into the quote unquote villain of the piece. But for the most part, it's just really really creepy. And if you have claustrophobia, the buried alive scene in here is just one of the very best of all time.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it has a lot of shock scares in it, but unique shock scares and some few dream sequences. It has a lot of the tropes that I tend to push back against in horror movies, but this one it's quite well done and it holds up. And Haiti, shithole country. So I wonder if someone watched that before making that comment. But anyway.
Right. Yeah, so we're in February now.
Yes, we are.
And
Happy Valentine's Day.
Right. And, this is a kind of a romantic movie. She's having a baby.
Yeah.
Which is John Hughes' sort of more one of his 2 grown-up films centered around grown-ups. He tried that once. And I thought very successful at it. I wish he did more like this. I think it's his most cinematic movie. He got a real cinematographer to shoot this thing. I forgot who it was, but I know somebody was like, oh yeah, that's a real cinematographer. That's a good choice. And there's some beautiful looking sequences in this movie. And it's also one of my favorite soundtracks. I listened to this soundtrack a lot in high school. And it's also incredibly inventive. There were a lot of baby comedies at the time that were still, 1987 going into 88, we're still in that baby mode. And this was, about the fears of having to grow up and be a father and just face the prospect of becoming a responsible adult and dealing with marriage and everything. Kevin Bacon, I think, is really terrific in it. Elizabeth, not McGovern, Elizabeth. Yeah, it is McGovern. Mm-hmm. I get her and Elizabeth, the other Elizabeth from Big. No, Big.
Perkins.
Perkins. I get those two mixed up all the time.
Wow, this is a good soundtrack.
Yeah, Elizabeth McGovern is. Here, I brought my cassette.
Oh, cool.
Put it on.
There we go.
Nice.
No, this is my favorite John Hughes movie, and it's one that not a lot of people really embraced or went to see. It's got a really clever closing credit sequence where a lot of actors jumped in and just had baby name suggestions. I know Bill Murray and
how about
Michael
Little
Keaton.
Suck?
How about Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Michael Keaton and
John Candy
and the cast of Cheers. It's such a great sequence. Mm-hmm. It's just a lot of really inventive, funny stuff in this movie, and really moving. The sequence with the Kate Bush song at the end when he's in the hospital is so good, and it just brings me to tears every time. So this is a really strong John Hughes movie before he, I don't know,
Home Aloned it.
Yeah, he Home Aloned it, and that was the last. This was the last really worthy thing I think that he put out there. So
it's easily the most unique film in his entire. I mean, because Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is my favorite John Hughes movie, which came out the year before.
Yeah, probably.
Share the same cinematographer, by the way, Don Peterman was his name, who shot Cocoon, Star Trek IV, Point Break, Men in Black. So I mean, he's got. I mean, he passed away in 2011, but he's got. I guess I
thought it was somebody else who was a little more of a name that for geeks like us, because when I watch it, it's like this is shot really well. This is like really like he's really paying attention to his framing and his lighting and everything in this. But okay, I mean,
easily the most underrated John Hughes movie. I mean, it's kind of stuck right there in the middle of like the teen stuff, and then moving that transition. Because even like Some Kind of Wonderful was a little more grown up for a teenage type movie. But then once he got into 1990, it was Home Alone, and then that's what he did.
That's all. Yeah,
that's what he did.
Pretty much.
But no, it's I think it's a terrific movie.
Yeah, no, I like it too, and I rewatched it and was charmed all over again. And I like this era of Kevin Bacon. I think he's really charismatic and charming and never like smug. Even in something like The Big Picture, I like his arc in that. But I mean, here he's great. And
Alec Baldwin.
And of course, Alec Baldwin's in this as well. Yeah,
it's an interesting timeline too. I'd like to go back and see exactly when Hughes actually filmed this, because in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, the wife is actually watching she's having a baby.
Right. And the first time I heard of this movie was on the VHS of Ferris Bueller. They had a trailer at the beginning before Ferris Bueller. So that we're talking like early 87 there. So this thing sat around for a while. I think I think there's a lot of stuff in that trailer that has never made it into the film. He's got so many ideas for this movie, and I think he took a lot of time to shape it while working on 3 other films, and so it's kind of an odd duck for him, but it's my favorite. So,
am I the only one here who thinks the unbearable lightness of being is unbearable?
No.
Okay. I don't.
The last time I watched it in 1988.
I just. It's very long.
It is.
And it's just, I mean, the pace of it is just
and I don't
challenging.
I don't know how you watched it. I watched it last summer, and it came on 2 discs, like 2 DVDs from Netflix. I was like, wow, Laserdisc era returns, man. We can't fit this movie on 1 disc, even though it's under 3 hours, but still.
Usually just flip the disc over.
Right. Not this time. I was like, wow, we're really we're doing it old school for this one. I don't know. I think Juliette Binoche is absolutely adorable, so I can watch her in anything. And
that's true.
Lena Olin is unbelievably sexy in it, so it's like
that's true.
And
but beyond that, Collin.
But today, if this movie came out, there would be so many arguments, a lot of male gaze arguments made against it, because it is by a very horny filmmaker. So
we all saw the right stuff. We know how horny.
Right? No, Philip Kaufman,
Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
and okay. After this, he did Henry and June, so that's what I'm talking about.
He got into this was his horny period.
Yeah. So there was a big critic success. Got a couple Oscar nominations, but it's not. I wouldn't indulgent.
Does it play as an interesting bookend now with Phantom Thread? I mean, could someone make that? That seems like a big piece in waiting now.
I would do that more with Age of Innocence, but
okay.
I would think,
because if you look, I mean, because this is when did Daniel Day-Lewis really gets started?
I thought My Beautiful Andrette was the first film. That was 86, I think.
86,
yeah. So
an unstoppable killer is on the loose. A killer no one has ever seen in a place no one has ever been. Enter FBI Special Expert Warren Stanton.
This man is mine.
It's the very best.
Get down!
Against the very worst.
I'm gonna pull the trigger!
And only one will survive. Sidney Poitier, Tom Berenger.
Let her go or die!
Shoot to kill.
Shoot to kill.
Which I have not seen and could not uncover.
I rewatched Shoot to Kill again. I remember I liked it more back then than I do now. Because this movie it's a unique way to do an action movie, because it starts off it's kind of like a mystery for the first part, even though it's not too hard to figure out who the killer is. It's like it sets up as a mysterious killer, and Sidney Poitier is the FBI agent who's tracking down this guy who's stolen some diamonds and he's killed a family because of it. And then the killer needs to get across the border, so he joins a hiking expedition that's run by Kirstie Alley. who is the girlfriend of Tom Berenger, who is a guide himself, and Sidney Poitier enlists Tom Berenger's help to go track them down. So it's kind of a unique, long-winded way to do a chase picture, and it kind of loses itself once when it reveals the mystery. Like, you know halfway through who the killer eventually is, and again,
it's Michael Rooker.
No, it's Clancy Brown. Actually,
okay.
It's not hard to figure out because the director, it's Roger Spottiswoode, I think. Director, there's a little too much focus on Clancy Brown as the guy trailing the pack with giving mysterious looks and whatnot, and it's like, okay, it's like either him or Richard Mazer. It's like it's going to be one of those two, and one's weak, one looks more strong. Regardless, spoiler alert. Anyway, but the best parts of the movie are the scenes between Poitier and Berenger, where they're butting heads, and the big city guy in the wilderness and whatnot, and trying to survive. Those scenes they're fun. They're funny. They're nicely done, and then cutting away from that to the guy that's got Kirstie Alley hostage is not great. And then the movie, for the third act of the movie, just goes out of the woods. You would think that would come down to some sort of climactic confrontation in the wilderness, but no, it ends up on a boat and stuff, and it's like that stuff, like, you know, it's like the Crocodile Dundee in reverse kind of thing. Like, now Tom Berenger's in the big city, and, you know, and City Poitier, and you're on my turf now, and I get to shoot some guns. And it kind of loses its way. It's not a bad film, but I think that it's like half of a pretty good movie.
Did not tell that boy's arm off. He had a spare.
He's a man who's no talk
I bet I can make you change your mind.
and all action.
How do you like your ribs?
The indefatigable Action Jackson.
I started watching Action Jackson. I didn't finish it.
Weird, because that's what I was about to say.
Yeah. Okay.
I probably finished it.
It's fine.
It's less than fine. I know that people. This is one of those movies that I think is people keep trying to make a thing now. Like, you know, Hocus Pocus is classic. No, it's not.
Oh, God.
You know, and like Action Jackson, I think is one of these movies that even colleagues of ours have like, I love Action Jackson. Like, really? You love Action Jackson? It's not a great movie.
Yeah.
It was an attempt to make Carl Weathers into an action hero post-Predator, basically. And it seemed like a cool idea, but it's just not. It's just it's so generic.
You know what else is not a classic, folks? Empire Records. It's not.
No,
it's not great.
No, it's not.
But when you're talking about, I know you're talking about Hocus Pocus and Empire Records. I think that's just a generational thing, and I'm sounding like old
like
man.
That's their Breakfast
that's
Club.
That's their thing. It's like, I mean, there's people older than us who probably look at Breakfast Club.
No wonder this new generation is doomed, because they didn't have good movies to be those movies.
Yeah, well,
millennials.
They need movies like School Days, right?
I like School Days.
Yeah,
I like it.
School Days too.
It's a really interesting movie to go back and watch today because it's like
a mishmash.
It is, and it's Spike Lee's first movie with a budget where he's working for a studio, and it's like you watch it and go, how did his career survive this? Because it's such an odd mixture, and you watch him, he makes really weird sort of awkward choices with the cameras and the editing, and there's a certain amount of charm in that, I think. And because it's such a go for broke idea, it's like he's making it's a sophomore effort, but it's a musical, and it's a musical about racism which is such a radical idea for a mid '80s film, and this is what you're gonna hang your career on this, that this will work. And it did work. Like, I mean, it actually was a profitable film for Columbia Pictures. It only cost $6 million, and it made like $15 million. So his career not only survived it, but it thrived in it. He was able to do the right thing after this.
How come you college motherfuckers think y'all run everything?
Hey, is there a problem here?
Big problems.
I heard that.
You come downtown year after year and take over. We was born here, gonna be here, and gonna die here, and can't find jobs because of you.
Yeah. Right. Can we go? Okay, can we just go?
We may not have your education, but we ain't dirt neither.
And ain't nobody said all of that, all right?
You Mission Park's always talking down to us.
Look, brother, I'm real sorry that you feel that way, okay? I'm really sorry about that.
Are you black?
Take a look in the mirror, man.
Look, man, you got a legitimate beef, all right? But it ain't with us, okay?
Are you black?
Hey, look, man, don't ever question the fact whether I'm black. In fact, I was gonna ask your country, Bama ass, why you got them drip chemicals in your head. Right, goddamn it. And then come out in public with a shower cap on your head.
Like a fucking bitch. Who you calling a bitch? Well, if the shoe fit.
Now, I bet you niggas do think y'all white. College don't mean shit. Y'all niggas.
Yeah, I feel like Chirac was him trying to do this kind of like
and I like that
hodgepodge approach, but not as successfully, in my opinion. I mean, School Days is a little more fun, and I don't know. I liked, obviously, the cast is spectacular. And
there's a lot of great
Lawrence Fishburne,
Giancarlo
Esposito.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really just a fascinating movie to go back and look at, even if it all doesn't work. It's like, wow, I mean, talk about just a risk, that young in his career, and he's taken this kind of a risk already.
Even a mess from Spike Lee is always interesting. Like, I mean, I know Bamboozled. Okay, I know, that's bad.
The sweet blood of Jesus.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I'd rather watch him like take a chance and I'd rather see him risk failure than see a lesser director just crank out something
certainly
boring and uninteresting.
Has anyone seen his Netflix show yet? I've been curious to watch it.
No.
It's like an updating of She's Gotta Have It, I think.
I've not seen that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Interesting.
Either. Anybody? I've never seen Satisfaction,
Neither have I.
and I tried to find it, and I can't find it anywhere.
I love Justine Bateman.
You shouldn't look that hard. It's not. I mean,
I'm sure it's bad.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, it's only interesting if you are a big Justine Bateman fan because. When else did she get a starring role?
Right.
And that's the thing.
Right.
It's just like if you're a big Family Ties guy, it might be interesting. And Julia Roberts, obviously, an early role for her. Liam Neeson as the love interest is okay. But it's just like I could never, even when I remember seeing the trailers for that movie and hearing them do the cover version of Satisfaction, I was just like, no. No. It's just like it's not. It's like it's not. No.
Yeah.
It's just not good.
It's like Britney Spears doing that cover is awful too. It's painful.
There's a foreign film called Au revoir les enfants by Louis Malle.
So much fun to say.
It is fun to say, and it's noteworthy. I mean, I like this movie. I went back and watched it because I'd never seen it before.
I need to see it because
it's very good. It's very, very good. It's really sad, but it's a beautiful film. Interesting though, it's what brought about the name Reservoir Dogs. Quentin Tarantino has said that the title came from when he's working at a video store and people would mispronounce this title, Au revoir les enfants, and somehow that he got Reservoir Dogs out of that, and that's how he named that film. So,
all right.
A little bit of trivia there.
Okay.
This is also the first time a movie took 20-some years to come out. But Manchurian Candidate finally got its release in 1988.
It's the most rousing speech I've ever read. It's been worked on here and in Russia on and off for over 8 years. I shall force someone to take the body away from him. Then Johnny will really hit those microphones and those cameras with blood all over him, fighting off anyone who tries to help him, defending America even if it means his own death, rallying a nation of television viewers into hysteria to sweep us up into the White House with powers that will make martial law seem like anarchy.
Even though it's made like 1962, but because of the assassination of JFK, the movie sat on the shelf for for a long period of time.
I realized that.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Yeah, and so it finally MGM finally put it out in 1988. That's the first time I remember seeing that happen with a movie.
So did you see it on the big screen?
I never did. No.
Oh, okay.
It's great, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing.
Yeah, so.
Scary movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And then Mr. Roman Polanski came back to direct, surprise, surprise, another homage to Hitchcock. Very blatantly so, one might say, with Harrison Ford kind of in the Jimmy Stewart role of the man who knew too much, or searching for somebody's missing, and the results are mixed for the most part. Like, there are things about it I like. I've always really liked Roman Polanski as a director, but sometimes I feel like
not as his personal life, no.
But his scripts.
Like, what else are you going to?
Yeah, I know, right? But yeah, no, I mean, like, it's I think this is kind of in the playing field of something like Ghost Rider, but overall, it's okay, it's fine. I mean, it's passable escapist entertainment with Harrison Ford, but it's not like up to like fugitive level intrigue and suspense at all.
Yeah, when I first saw this movie back then, obviously it's not the typical Harrison Ford type movie. It feels like it is because his wife gets kidnapped in every movie, but or dies or divorced or something. Something happens to his wife, and so I really didn't like it back then. But I revisited it again recently, and I think it's a pretty solid film. I think it's a little too long. I think if you chop it down to like 90 minutes, there's a little too many. I have to go to another guy to find out why they're not finding anything about my wife scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a little too much Emmanuel Seigné in the back half. I mean, like, we're 20 minutes away from the end of the movie, and they're like doing a seduction scene in the dance club and stuff. But there's some great Harrison Ford line readings in the movie where he is literally frantic and just dropping, just yelling at people for being stupid and not helping him.
Right.
There's some really funny stuff in the movie. John Mahoney's also in the movie, which we recently just lost. So I liked it more. It's very 70s, very European, very, you mentioned Hitchcock, obviously, very all of that. And
instead of frenzy, we get frantic.
Right, yeah. If all that is your jam, you can absolutely do a lot worse than frantic.
Yeah.
This was also the time when the world was introduced to Jean-Claude Van Damme. With blood sports.
You are not Japanese.
I can do it. Now, for the first time, the true story of America's super agent, Frank Dukes, can be revealed.
Uncle Sam can't afford to let you get hurt.
I'm going to Hong Kong.
Frank is going to fight in the Kumite, and we're here to stop him.
An awesome human weapon.
That hurts me just looking at it.
Who infiltrates the Chinese underworld.
I did not come this far to stop now.
Take it.
To enter a forbidden competition.
Couldn't you just get me in?
Strict rules, no press.
You telling me you never break rules?
Where every fighting style, every worthy opponent, every deadly technique.
You get the song?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this is, now there is such a thing as a Jean-Claude Van Damme film, and we're going to get more of them just like this. And all I can think of when I watch this movie is, ow, 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 ow. Don't do that. Bodies, no. You're not supposed to stretch like that.
That in particular.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all, because there are a lot of punches in this movie. I'm thinking about, but that moment,
Yeah. So, but it's fun. I enjoy watching Bloodsport. It's a ridiculous movie.
Yeah.
I
agree.
To this day, there are two Van Damme movies. There's Hard Target and there's Bloodsport.
Hard Target rules.
I know there's some people that would like to throw Universal Soldier in there and maybe something else.
You're not a Time Cop fan?
I'm not a Time. That's the other one. I'm not a Time Cop fan. I think that
You should see that again.
Yeah.
Time travel.
Yeah, exactly. I love time travel, but I don't like that movie.
Okay.
But Bloodsport rules.
Yeah.
Bloodsport's
It does.
Forrest Whitaker's in it.
The best friend is Ogre.
Yeah.
Donald Gibb is the best friend. Jackson! Hey, finish him off.
You like dancing? I've got the bug.
Hairspray.
I love Hairspray.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love
It's one of John
Hairspray.
Waters' best films.
Oh, it is his best film. I absolutely think
There
it's
you
his
go.
best film. It's one of my favorite movies of this year. It's in my top 10 list.
Wow.
Last time I watched it, I realized what an accomplishment this movie is for him.
Yes.
Not just for him, but as a movie. There's a lot of the Hairspray. Well, everybody knows Hairspray, I guess, but I don't have to set it up. But this movie takes place during the Civil Rights era, and there are a lot of prestigious civil rights movies and apartheid movies and everything from this era. And this one's my favorite because it accomplishes. First of all, it does it in the guise of a comedy, which is very great dictator-ish. And not just a comedy, but a John Waters comedy. Like John Waters' voice as a comedic director is maintained in this movie, even though it's PG, and there's not much in the way of gross out humor in it. You still got Divine in it. You still got a wacky cast of characters in it, while being a serious minded film that never gets heavy handed.
Yeah,
and
that is kind of a feat.
While also being a lovely tribute to these kind of teenage dance shows of that era, and digging deep into the soundtrack of that time. Like, there's so many songs in this movie that I never would have heard if it weren't for this film. It doesn't go for the obvious choices.
I was a big oldies connoisseur.
Yeah,
and this was just
And Ricki Lake was a great find for this movie. Like, she's a wonderful hero, and like, how progressive is that? That like he's I mean, that's always been John Waters' thing, is being on the side of the freaks and the outcasts of society, and this is no different. But this one I think is really
broke through the mainstream.
Yeah, it broke through the mainstream. And you can see him really like growing as a filmmaker in this movie. There's one beautiful moment where it's during the slow dance at in this dance hall thing. It's like black, the Negro Night or something like that at the time. That's what they call it in the film, folks. That's what it was at the time. And then he cuts to outdoors, and the main characters are making out with their boyfriends / girlfriends, whatever. And this sort of street bum comes walking by them, and he's singing along with the song that's being sung inside. And it's like this sort of out of nowhere musical number that just, you would never think that John Waters had it in him to like put this in. And it doesn't lend itself to anything. It's just beautiful. Yeah. And like you tell, like he had real affection for this time.
Yeah, both Spike Lee and John Waters, two filmmakers you wouldn't expect this from, just inserting these really sort of beautiful musical moments in their films, and successfully. Yeah,
and it's fun.
Yeah,
it is so much fun to watch Hairspray. Yeah. I have a ball watching Hairspray, and I like the remake too. But yeah, so this is definitely one of these movies, one of my absolute favorite movies of this year.
How about you, Eric?
I like it.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it since the remake. That's the last time I actually saw it. I revisited then, and I always had the same affection for it. I think it's just a really sweet movie, and I'd never quite elevated more the way it did for Collin, but I've always liked it. And yeah, you're right. I mean, if you're familiar with John Waters' work prior to that, it doesn't. I mean, it's a complete leap. It's almost like a shedding of a lot of the stuff that he did before, because it's just it feels like a movie.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I'm not a fan of that early stuff. I'm really not. Yeah, I love John Waters as a
provocateur and stuff.
Well, I love him as a anytime he's a guest on a show, it's gold. I love John Waters as a person.
Listening to talk about Wizard of Oz or
right.
any movie, really, it's great. What's not great at all is Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon.
You can take this one.
I know, but see, I love River Phoenix, and I'll see anything he's in. And a movie that he's in later this year is much better. For some reason, like when I was younger, I was just curious about. I was like, oh, River Phoenix is like in the sex comedy, and
he was a heartthrob at this time. That was happening.
I guess he seemed a little too young for that to me. Still at that time. I didn't see it then, and it was one of those movies like I always saw, like, the VHS cover, and just, I never heard anything good about it, so why bother? And I see it's on Amazon Prime, and of course I'm prepping for this episode. I watch it, and the quality of it is horrible, the transfer of it is horrible, but then also, apparently this is like a director's cut on Amazon Prime, and I was so perplexed at one point when a voiceover kicks in and it cuts and the quality is even worse, like VHS quality to where you see the wavy lines all of a sudden, and it's like a deleted scene thrown into the director's cut that is pretty awful, and pretty much the whole movie is. I mean, there's very little redeeming qualities about it whatsoever. Forgot who plays his best friend, but it's somebody notable. And I can't remember. But it's just a mess.
Well, I remember like 15 years ago, I want to say, and this is shop talk. You can edit this out if you need to, looking for stuff to edit out of the podcast. But during the end of the year for screeners, for us film critics who get screeners, for some reason a bunch of us got a copy of A Night in the Life of Jimmy Reardon, the director's cut that you're talking about, with this long letter from the director about explaining what this is and wanting us to review it. I never watched it because it's just too much other stuff to do. And it was so bizarre. It was like, what, really? Why are we doing this? Why?
Yeah, it's not a movie worth saving.
Yeah, I was like
bringing back.
Yeah, I'm like, so I'm. It's interesting that I'm glad you watched it. And then it's interesting that that's out there in that form, in that sort of cruddy sort of.
It's really bad.
Wow.
Like the voiceover is just, it's like Blade Runner kind of like, all of a sudden, why is this in here?
Yeah.
For no reason. I mean, it just clearly doesn't belong.
Yeah, I don't remember making worst lists back then, but if I did, this would have been on it. I hated this movie when I saw it, and the only reason I watched it, obviously not for River Phoenix, there's a lot of really wonderful ladies in the movie. Sure. Meredith Salinger, Ione Skye.
Patton Oswalt's wife, right?
Exactly. Ione Skye. His best friend, by the way, is Matthew Perry.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, way well before Friends. And I hated River Phoenix in it so much. I hated that character.
I know.
And I remember what Colin's talking about, that it was this big deal, that it was like one of these movies that was like taken away from the director, and all the footage was found or something like that. And I can't remember, was it the actual director himself that gave it to us, or was
because it was his
like
footage.
One of those Raising Cain things where
no,
someone
it wasn't a fan
the
thing, because I don't. Why would there be a fan cut of this movie?
Hocus Pocus, 2 words, Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, but
there's a think piece on Jimmy Reardon in the works. I'm telling you.
All right.
No, it's not worth saving at all.
Yeah, it's a horrible film.
It's one of the few River Phoenix performances I can't stand.
It's going to make the next couple movies on the list look much better, actually, I think.
Let's move on to March.
Yeah, we are in March.
We're in March.
Yeah.
So, Stand and Deliver I rewatched. That's...
I saw that when it first came out and liked it fine.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it was pretty progressive for its time. It was like an almost all Latino cast,
right?
Except for Andy Garcia, who has an Andy Garcia freakout moment at the end. Don't call me racist.
Can I do the Andy Garcia scene?
Do it. Do it.
It's like, no one has the right to accuse me of racism. No one has the right to accuse me of racism.
Yeah. But Edward James Olmos nominated for this film. I want to say this. I want to say the screenplay was also nominated. I could be wrong. I have the notes.
I don't think so. I think it was just the solo nomination. That was kind of a big deal at the time.
Okay. But it is one of those movies that is your standard inspirational teacher film that would become this. A lot of stuff in this movie would become cliche later on, but this is like one of the first. So when you watch it today, it's like very predictable and cliche, but it's not bad. It's all right. And Olmos is very good. All the best stuff in the movie is the classroom stuff with Edward James Olmos.
Yeah, that's what I remember most.
Yeah.
I didn't need to revisit this movie because I saw it about 1,900 times in high school.
Oh, they made you watch it?
It was one of those things where I think it was the only tape that the school had. So whenever a teacher didn't have a lesson plan or had to leave the room or something like that, this was the film that they would put on.
Okay.
And I'm like, not just like Spanish class, but like gym class, like the whatever the class was that was the gym teacher taught. I forgot what class that was, health education or something like that. It's fine. I mean, and he's teaching math, so I'm interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
Negative times a negative equals a positive. So
right.
A negative times a negative equals a positive.
Yep.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And all the kids, they pass the test and everything's happy.
I wish I could change places with you.
Well, I wish I could too.
Inside Marshall Seymour, successful businessman, divorced father, and self-styled workaholic, beats the heart of a little boy. Because Marshall Seymour is about to become his 11-year-old son, Charlie.
Awesome!
And vice versa.
If I were to be, a true critic, I'd be like, well, this movie isn't so good. But I don't know. I kind of like vice versa.
Certainly not the worst body switching movie of this
it's not.
era.
It's in like the top half of that era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was pre-Wonder Years. Fred Savage.
No. Fred
Right in the
Wonder Years
middle
was
of it.
85.
Yeah.
86. So this was
Really?
85,
Okay.
86.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
I wonder what compelled me to see it then. Well, I guess I must have just...
Judge Reinhold.
Yeah. I was a huge Judge Reinhold fan. No, it's just charming, and it's they work well together. I think they both have a lot of chemistry together as a father and son, and I mean the whole skull thing is weird. I don't know, like how they
Is
actually
it any
switch
worse
bodies.
than peeing into a fountain together?
That's
I mean,
peeing in the
fountain.
fountain.
Change up.
I didn't see that.
That's how they do it, and they pee into
Oh,
the
God.
same magical fountain, and they. Yeah,
That's weird.
Penis is out, body switched.
No, it's dumb fun that I watched a lot as a kid and still have I still watch it and smile throughout it, and it's not high art, but it's enjoyable for what it is.
I meant to go back to it, never got to it.
It's fine.
If we're going for films that maybe we shouldn't like as critics, there is one that came out before vice versa, the week before actually, that I have always defended, and there's so many reasons not to, but I always thought it was a funny movie, and it's switching channels.
You own this network?
No, he's a little guy. Looks just like Hitler.
Oh.
Sorry about the hot weather, Bingham, but I see you're dressed for it. Right down to your glasses tied around your neck in case a basketball game breaks out. You're marrying a wonderful girl.
Yes, I know.
I wouldn't let her reaction to shellfish put you off. A lot of people swell up and turn red, get blotches all over their body. I used to take lotion, and I just put it everywhere.
A little later, still trying to get rid of the fiancée, Reynolds tricks Reeve into getting into an elevator despite his great fear of heights.
What's the matter? Mr. Bingham, don't touch her. Don't.
No matter how mad she is at Reynolds, Turner is a pro when the cameras are on.
What's the lead, Christine?
The lead is former investigative reporter slays ex-husband in TV studio.
20 seconds.
I swear on Walter Cronkite's head, I wouldn't hurt the lad. How's the language?
What? Have I ever used bad language, you rotten son of a bitch?
That was so bad I didn't even bother.
I think it gets a bad rap. I really
Okay.
do, and I'm pretty sure Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. I think.
Yeah, this
I'm
is
pretty sure. Well,
Christopher Reeve, Burt Reynolds, and Kathleen Turner.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Burt Reynolds is in Rent-A-Cop. Obviously, we joked about that already, but it was one of those movies where like sometimes the Razzies just look for something Burt Reynolds is in to nominate him for, and I think just by osmosis, if he's in something, they immediately gets shot down. But if you go back and watch this, they're trying to maintain that same pace that His Girl Friday has, and you can I mean, we're talking about His Girl Friday, we're talking about one of the greatest comedies ever. Absolutely. So obviously, to try to replicate that is going to come with a degree of cynicism and being skeptical about it. But Christopher Reeve is very funny in the Ralph Bellamy role. It's set in Chicago. It's a Chicago-based movie. It has a lot to do with Chicago politics, which fits the His Girl Friday mode. I think the Turner and Reynolds have that snappy thing together. It seems weird, I know, but if you go back and watch it, I think that they're really good together, and it worked for me. I defend it. I think people who really crap on this movie are just doing it because they remember someone else crapping on it, and they think it's it's this bad thing. Yeah, it's not His Girl Friday. It's not, but I'll put it up there with some of the better Burt Reynolds movies. I don't know, a low bar, I suppose, too, but still.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
And Christopher Reeve scared of heights? Come on.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the State Building.
Mm-hmm. So this is the last Police Academy movie to come out in theaters, right?
No, 6 came out. 6 came out.
All right.
Yeah, it was Mission to Moscow that didn't make it into.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right.
I'm not defending this one. Well, not that I would defend.
Do you defend any Police Academy movies?
No.
Anyone?
No. I thought I was going to defend 4 for some reason.
I have some.
But that's not, I rewatched them. Like,
I saw 3 and 4 in the theater, and I have some fond memories of 2.
Yeah,
2's got moments.
2's got moments.
Yeah.
But no, I tuned out by this point. I just didn't care.
This was the first one without Gutenberg too.
That's true.
They replaced him with Matt McCoy, who's now in Silicon Valley and I think doing Metamucil commercials or something.
Movie that doesn't hold up for me as well as DOA, which
That's
is
true.
the remake of the Edmund
very
O'Brien
true.
thriller. This is the Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan thing.
I definitely saw this too young, and I think it was just because I loved Inner Space so much, and I wanted to see them again in
Together.
a different movie. Yeah.
I loved it when it came out.
Yeah.
I thought like stylistically it was beautiful to look at, and then now I watch it today, and it just didn't do anything for me at all.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed to hear you say that.
Yeah,
'cause
I
it's
know.
still
I'm disappointed to say that.
I mean, what? I mean, is it just? I mean, does the style not seem as good? I mean, because
No, it just doesn't. It doesn't. I don't know. The story just didn't grab me this time.
Huh.
It had been like 20 years since I'd seen it, and I don't know. I don't despise it or anything like that. It just didn't. This was like I loved this movie when it came out.
I
I
did
was
too.
really disappointed. I was like, I'm not loving it now. But this happened, That
I
happens
think
with
that
age,
there's
you
because
know?
beyond the mystery element of the movie, I still think the style of it is really good. It's short. It's like 97 minutes. It's short.
Yeah.
I like the color transition throughout the movie that they're going for. I think Quaid's really good in the movie. I think that the dialogue does have a bit of a crackle to it at times. I mean, they basically get to a point where they just kill off so many people that it's like, well, of course that's the person who did it.
Right.
But I didn't mind that because I even like the reasoning behind it. And you see all the clues there if you're paying attention. But I loved it the first time I saw it, and I still really enjoy the hell out of it.
Okay.
So, okay.
Right.
Any of you ever see Aria?
I feel like I might have.
I think chapters of it.
Okay, yeah. So this is like an anthology film made by a bunch of filmmakers, and it's all like everybody's doing an opera film.
Is it Godard?
Godard, Nicholas Roeg, Bruce Beresford, Robert Altman, Ken Russell, and basically they're all it's just a bunch of horny guys making a lot of trying to make high art out of what they really just want to have a lot of tits in their film. It's just it's just like it's like we're really just making erotica, but we're putting opera behind it just to make it more prestigious and art house-ish. But it's like it's kind of nonsense, but it's not unwatchable.
It's got tits in it.
It's got a lot of just a lot of horny directors making a movie where it's like we don't have to ascribe to any particular story or plot structure or anything. We can just do whatever we want with this movie. Let's get Bridget Fonda in here and get her to take her clothes off. That's basically what this is.
And Philip Kaufman's like, any room for me, guys?
Yeah. You had your 3-hour epic. We are going to sit through that again. All right.
You have to choose between that and Pound Purries. Or Pound Puppies.
Pound Puppies and the Legend of Big Paw.
I'm a cat guy.
You shouldn't be.
Well, I am.
Well, your boys are both
We're
cat
both cat
guys.
Yeah, I like dogs too.
Allergies.
So, anyway.
I didn't see Pound Puppies or anything.
No, me neither.
No.
But you did see Biloxi Blues.
I did, and I liked it. I liked it fine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Utterly original, strong, intelligent, and challenging. Extraordinary and courageous performances by Barbara Hershey and Jill Clayburgh. Roger Ebert, Chicago Sun-Times.
Grace? I thought you left to work on your story. Thought maybe you'd like to come.
You know Granddad's brother who went down to Louisiana and became some kind of an outlaw? I mean, it is fabulous. There's got to be a story in it.
A New York journalist and her daughter embark on a journey into a different world. Into the heart of the Louisiana Bayou.
And I don't know, maybe the box office take was so poor that it didn't even register on Box Office Mojo's website, because I looked it up and there's nothing. It's a really strange, interesting film made by Andrei Konchalovsky, who did Runaway Train and would eventually do the crazy Nutcracker movie that came out in 2011.
And Tango and Cash.
And Tango and Cash.
Don't forget that.
So he's a crazy director. And this is a really interesting film about, who was it again? Jill Clayburgh, who travels to the swamplands of Louisiana and kind of
Reunites with her family?
Yeah. and it's Barbara Hershey and her 2 or 3 sons who are just living in the swamps and have no electricity, and Martha Plimpton is Jill Clayburgh's daughter, and she travels with her, and she gets kind of tangled up with these guys too. It's a really interesting movie that it's hard to describe.
It is hard to describe. Like, it's one of those I knew we were going to talk about it. I'm like, I don't know. It's it's kind of an enigma in a way, but it's at the same time it's still straightforward, and it's like just covering family strife and stranger in a strange land kind of a thing going on a little bit. Yeah, it's a drama. It kind of escalates to sort of a thriller towards the end. Yeah, true. And everybody's kind of given so a lot of the supporting characters are giving kind of over the top performances. This is my favorite Barbara Hershey performance. And I think she's great in this movie. Definitely. And I mean, Mare Winningham is in it. She's all dolled up at one point. Martha Plimpton's, killing it with some 80s dance moves at one point. Don Swayze looks like Tennessee Buck. There's a deep cut for you. It's got a Tangerine Dream score. That's but at one my point, jam right there. Yeah, but at one point in the movie, when they're taking a trip into town, they play this horrendous pop song, and I feel like I should be watching like Ninjas in Training during the song. It's like, this does not belong here. Yes, definitely did not. But and it's been impossible to find. It's never been on DVD. It's never been. It's been kind of limbo, right? It's very well. Warner Brothers put it out on video. Warner Canon again. Yeah. And you can watch it on YouTube. Somebody uploaded a really nice letterboxed copy on YouTube, which is how I watched it this time. And it's worth seeing. It's definitely worth seeing. Yeah. So, but it just, boy, did it die at the box office. Yeah. It's an interesting movie. Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering. I'm going to guess that Ebert saw it because it premiered at Cannes in 1987, where she actually won Best Actress for it. Okay. And also one of the sons in the movie is played by Merritt Buttrick, who was Kirk's son in Star Trek 2 and 3. Oh, okay. And he died of AIDS in 1989.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. So Shy People. A lost gem that should be rediscovered and put out. I do recall being there opening night for Beetlejuice, and I mean, again, like Tim Burton wasn't a household name at that point or anything, but I'm guessing it was advertised as from the director of Pee-wee's Big Adventure, but also Michael Keaton. Yeah, that's all I needed at that time. Yeah. To get me in the theater, and this is just an inventive movie from beginning to end. It was. I remember when I walked out of it, I was like, the first time I went, I'd never seen anything like that before. That was completely original and weird. And, I mean, it's not hysterically funny or anything, but there are some great... I don't know about that. There's some great Michael Keaton stuff. Yeah. And my grandparents liked Harry Belafonte, so that was nice. Sure. But, it's good. I still think it holds up as definitely one of the... I mean, especially when we think of more recent Burton. I mean, this is definitely light years better than a lot of his recent output. I don't go back to it as much as I might have back then, because it was probably one of those I saw on cable a lot and would just watch it over and over and over again, and and strangely related to Winona Ryder a little bit, for better or worse. But I think it's a very good movie, and not like one of my all time favorites or anything, but it's just. Well, it's also great. It also showed that, like, it proved that Pee-wee's Big Adventure was not strictly Pee-wee or Paul Rubin's creation. Yeah, exactly. It's like, Tim Burton's input in that film was actually really important, and we'll further explain that later on too. So it's like, there's this. Tim Burton has a real gift for imaginative visuals, and he's got a really creative imagination. He took the Large Marge from Pee-wee's and put a lot of that imagination into this. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a lot of the stop motion stuff that he was doing in that. Yeah, I've always loved Beetlejuice. I mean, for all the reasons that you talk about, and as soon as Keaton shows up in that movie, I mean, it's really inventive up to that point, and then Keaton shows up and just knocks the movie over and and takes over, and everything he does in the movie. And he's only in the movie for only like 15 minutes, maybe, or something ridiculous. Yeah. And he kills in it. Love Beetlejuice. I remember being shocked that the F word was in it for a PG movie, right? Yeah. PG. Yeah. So we're in April now. Good move. That's a good movie to release on April 1st, actually. Yeah, it is. Yeah. It was released alongside Bright Lights Big City, which that's another one that's hard to find. That I couldn't rewatch. But that was the one that I was going through my folders, and I couldn't believe I had. Oh, I had Bright Lights. Actually, owned Bright Lights Big City.
This for me is like this and another movie we'll talk about later on is the first time I ever heard there was such a thing as screeners, because I was like I was very well known at this particular video store and with some of the people who worked there, and they're like, hey, I got a copy of Bright Lights Big City and it's a screener. And it's like, what's a screener? Oh my god, I can watch this now? Like, it doesn't come out on video for another like 3 months and I can watch it now? It was that and Lady in White were the two movies that I got to do that with. Good. So I was like really happy. But anyway, a little memory there. It's okay. It's an adaptation of a book that a lot of people don't like, or but that was very much adored at the time. Again, we're talking about addiction, drug addiction, alcoholism, big theme.
Lifestyle,
excess, big theme for this year. A lot of people thought Michael J. Fox was miscast. Okay. I mean, he's been miscast worse in other things like Light of Day. But he's okay here.
I always liked Michael J. Fox doing drama. I don't know. I mean,
I do too.
I like him trying to do drama.
I think he's very good in actually.
Yeah. Some people think he's miscast in that too.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like because of his TV persona and because he had that likable presence and whatnot, to see him doing anything where he was trying to stretch himself seemed like too much of a stretch. I mean, I don't dislike Bright Lights Big City either, because I think there are some really powerful individual scenes in that movie. I mean, it was funny.
That's what I remember from it.
And rewatching it again, I was struck that it wasn't like I thought it was going to be a lot of scenes in clubs and a lot of scenes in bathrooms and doing cocaine and whatnot. And it's really not like that. There's a lot of stuff with him at work and him screwing up and things like that are sort of the aftermath of doing some of those things. But it's not so much that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff about him and the grief he feels over his mom dying the year before, and I think some of that stuff really works. There's a really great scene between him and Swoosie Kurtz in the movie where he kind of lays all that out and lays it, and he's drinking and whatnot, but he lays it all out on her. And I think that's a really good scene. I think Kiefer Sutherland, again, could kind of do this role in his sleep, but compared to Michael J. Fox, he seems very at ease in this type of role.
And
I think
enabler in this?
More or less, he's his best friend. He's always one who's bringing the drugs and tell him, come out. But he's also really good in the film. Phoebe Cates is kind of wasted as the wife that left him, unfortunately. But I didn't dislike the movie. I really didn't. What an endorsement.
Yeah, I'll be curious.
It's better than Less Than Zero.
It's better than The Boost.
Yeah.
No, that's not what you want. Jamie, that's not what you want. No. Shh. No. Calm down. Baby.
Did you skip over Bad Dreams?
We're trying to.
I guess so.
But
I kind of like Bad Dreams.
I couldn't find it.
We'll talk about it.
It's on a Blu-ray with visiting hours.
Yeah,
is it?
It's on Shout Factory Blu-ray.
Oh,
yeah.
All right.
Jennifer Rubin, and it starts off with starts out just like Lord of Illusions, actually.
Yes,
like almost beat for beat.
Which came out 5 years later.
Right. And it's just like a cult kind of a movie that starts out that way, and then she winds up being one of the survivors after they all, have a mass suicide. They set the house on fire and just die.
Burn themselves to death.
Yeah, they burned themselves to death. She survives, winds up in an institution.
In a coma, years later.
Yeah, in a coma, and then, winds up, inpatient and dealing with some very interesting characters throughout this institution. Very Dream Warriors-like. But, I mean, I guess, there's an overarching question of whether everybody's going insane or if there's actually somebody messing with them on the inside. And it kind of the last act of this movie is really bad, and especially the main villain of the film kind of dies, and then the cop just literally just goes,
he shrugs.
That's it. Okay. That's it. The end of the movie. I just end this movie. It's that's kind of what he's giving off is in terms of vibes and stuff. But it's okay. I don't know. I don't know. I like Andrew Fleming as a director, I think.
This was his directorial debut. This is obviously light years removed from Honeymoon in Vegas and
Dick,
and It Could Happen to You and stuff like that.
Wait a minute, that's Andrew Bergman.
Andrew Bergman?
Yeah.
The Andrew Fleming's The Craft.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, of course, Andrew Fleming did Dick. Yeah, cut that out.
Straight out of context.
I when I saw this movie back then, I hated it. Like, hated it every fiber of my being.
Yeah,
and I watched...
Ebert did, too.
Yeah, and I watched it again, and I still completely agree with Ebert on this movie. I think this movie is kind of vile. But not in a clever kind of way. Like, it's not clever in a gore sense. It's not clever in a scary way. You mentioned, exactly what's going on in the movie. They keep whether or not the Richard Lynch cult leader has actually come back to life and to claim now new people who have nothing to do with him from the thing. Like, why is he haunting all of her, institution mates? It just doesn't make any sense. And, of course, it doesn't make any sense. But
I think I might be projecting a little bit, but there's a little subtext about psychopharmacology towards the end.
Yeah, which, again, it just makes everything that comes before it all the more reprehensible. I think that, if you're going to do the horror movie, just do the standard one where he's, coming back. Because the two halves, the first 2/3 and the last third, don't mesh at all. And putting what those characters go through in the movie, like trying to do like clever gore scenes, like two people jump into a fan, and then there's an aftermath after that is absolutely sickening and vile. It'd be clever if it was a fun movie, but it's not a fun movie. And Dean Cameron, has a moment with scalpels that is pretty terrible. And it is an ugly, ugly movie that I really can't stand.
It's all right.
Okay.
One of the more controversial movies that came out this year was a movie called Colors, directed by Dennis Hopper, starring Robert Duvall and Sean Penn as L.A. cops in dealing with L.A. gangs and street violence and everything. And it was, for its time, I think, a pretty good film. Today, I think a lot of the performances hold up and everything, but no one would stand for this movie today. You're going to talk about, especially the climate of Black Lives Matter. Like, you're going to make a movie about gang violence. You're going to tell it from the cops' point of view. I don't think so. But that was the movie that came out in 1988. And I think some of it holds up pretty well, and some of it's a little melodramatic. But Damon Wayans has really funny little cameo in it. I forgot about that. Is one of the more bizarre scenes.
It's so
in the film.
Bizarre.
It's like so like
late in the movie. Yeah, like after all the stuff you've gone through, like Damon Wayans. And this is, In Living Color hadn't started yet, so people didn't know who this guy was.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now you watch it, it's like, why is it now a Damon Wayans comedy? Like he's playing this bizarre, drugged out character who runs around in a diaper and dancing with a giant stuffed bunny, and it's like, wait a minute, I thought I was watching a variation of Boys in the Hood or something like that. Now it's this movie.
T-Bone. I'm not gonna shoot you. Come on, everything's cool. Everything's cool now. Come on, let's go.
Now fuck that, man. Fuck that, man. Fuck that. Get off me, man. Give me my rabbit, man.
Calm down.
Give me my rabbit.
Calm down, T-Bone.
Give me my rabbit, man. What's done? You couldn't get none at home, man. Get off me, man.
There's your rabbit,
Get
T-Bone.
Yeah.
There's your rabbit.
That's my T-Bone's in the house. In the house, baby.
Get up, T-Bone.
Yo, man. You're gonna have to give me my baby. Give me my rabbit.
Look at your rabbit.
Shoot.
Got your rabbit.
Give me.
Here's your rabbit.
Take me away. Try to take the T-Bone away, baby. I want to let him.
It's an interesting movie, just would not get made today.
Yeah,
it's a product of its time.
I didn't get a chance to rewatch it, but I do remember liking it when it first came out.
Yeah, I think it's a little better than Collin does, because it does. While there are a lot of scenes that deal with the gangs and their relationship with cops. I mean, this movie is about it got labeled as the gang movie, and because it caused all the strife, because there were incidents at theaters that people were reporting on where gang members were fighting each other, going to see this movie. So that's one of the reasons why it became a thing. But it is a movie about the cops and the differing psychological way that they deal with the gang. You have Sean Penn as the hot-headed character that would be the focus of a movie like that today, that he's the one just, I will bust anyone for anything, and putting the smack down on anyone he can get his hands on, while Robert Duvall is trying to be the one that, like, look, we're not going to bust you for this, you can help, it's that relationship for him. He's a little more end of watch to an extent, and Sean Penn's a little more the bad cop character. In a way, he's not wholly bad. He's just trying to do his job to the literal letter of the law and breaking a couple rules along the way. So I think it's an interesting movie to watch as the dynamic between cops and gangs in a situation like that. So I don't necessarily agree that it couldn't be made today. I think you're right that people would be more upset that it was focused on the cops and not it's focused on the white characters as opposed to the people of color, the literal colors character. But there's a lot of stuff with the gangs and the warring factions in the movie. I mean, Don Cheadle plays the main, the gang leader who kills a guy at the beginning of the movie, and then is the guy that everyone's after, that keeps getting referenced throughout the entire movie.
Didn't this just come out on Blu-ray recently?
Recently, yeah. Shout Factory put it out. I think it was part of their Shout Select line. Really good-looking transfer, too. I think it's a good movie.
Yeah.
Okay, where should we go to next, guys?
Baghdad Cafe.
Oh, really?
In April.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. A really quirky... This is when indie films were often called quirky, and this is definitely quirky, but really good quirky. It's really
good quirky.
Yeah, it's not annoying quirky. There are annoying quirky things coming up.
It starts off really kind of like a little manic almost. Like it starts off like quirky. I'm like, is this really the tone of the movie?
Yeah, no, it takes a lot of. It's like stylistically, it is a really unique film. Like every single scene is shot through a very colorful filter.
Oh yeah,
that is that makes it just it gives it its own unique look. And this was a big art house hit that
especially over
surprised
in Europe,
a lot of people.
I think it was like the #1 film in Europe. I don't know specifically. But it was like really highly praised, and it came out a year before over there. And it's just a really interesting look at America from a German perspective, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she's German, and she's Marianne Sajbrecht, I think is the name of the actress.
Yeah.
She was the housekeeper in War of the Roses.
That's right. And Rosalie goes shopping.
Yeah, and so she gets... she and her husband have this big argument, and she gets out of the car and is in this desert and outside Las Vegas, and comes across this tiny little cafe and sort of
befriends everybody there.
Yeah,
and stays at the hotel nearby. And I like it when a bunch of different eccentric people sort of gather in one location and all sort of get to know each other. And
they've kind of like all collectively made this decision that this is where they're going to spend their a good amount of time of their lives. Yeah, I like this movie.
Yeah, and the desert landscape, it's definitely not on the level of Paris, Texas, but just kind of
it's a beautiful looking film.
Yeah, it's beautiful looking, and by the end, I was I loved all these people. And I like, my only critique of it would be is that it feels too short. Like, I know there's a version out there that's maybe like 15 minutes longer, but the way it ends, it's kind of abrupt, where it's just
it is abrupt.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still really charming. And CCH Pounder, is that yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
she's really great. She's got a great screen presence here, and I love this movie. It surprised me because I heard a lot of good things about it, but it just kind of appeals to my taste in general, and sense of humor, and certainly the cinematography is just gorgeous.
Universal Pictures presents a very important motion picture that asks a very serious question about life in the 80s.
Could you imagine us doing this horizontally, huh?
Casual sex.
You're horny. I am not horny. I hate that word.
I feel so many things right now.
This is kind of interesting.
I mean, this Marty is meant to be enjoyed by people,
You can have one with the guy on top. I just move my hips like this. God, how do you do that? Like a little
Even though I'm incredibly sexy, I have never been to bed with anyone in my entire life.
Oh my God.
Casual sex.
Well, you didn't give me an opportunity.
Oh, okay.
Do we really need to talk about casual sex?
I never saw it.
I never saw
casual sex.
I never saw it either.
Really, I've seen casual sex.
I knew you would have.
Well, Leah Thompson is
in
it, and Andrew Dice Clay.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying who's in the movie. Not the reason I saw it.
Okay.
No, I mean it's two friends go to like a resort. And they're hoping to meet guys. That's basically all it is. And they, it's.
Why is the title a question mark?
Casual sex?
Because should we have it? Should it be casual, or should we find love? Collin?
Oh, okay.
All right. It's one of those types of movies.
Okay.
And it's not particularly good. I mean, it's if you're a big Leah Thompson fan, like some of us are, you can. At 87 minutes or whatever it is, you could spend worse times. But it's a weird. It's weird that when you go back and watch it now, how weird Leah Thompson's sex life was in the 1980s in film. Can you consider
Howard the Duck?
Howard the Duck. Okay, Duck. Back to the Future or Son, and Casual Sex. Andrew Dice Clay. So that's the list. Yeah, she ends up.
Back to the Future 2.
Yeah,
which she's with Biff. Yeah. So that's also
right.
very.
So
weird.
that fits right into that. But yeah, no. She basically this movie. Andrew Dice Clay starts off as Andrew Dice Clay, and then becomes the guy that actually learns to be a better man by the end of the movie, and is like, I didn't know I'd end up with Vinny. I think or the Vinny, because it's like one of those and Andrew Dice Clay as the Vinny or something. I forgot what he's called in the movie. And Victoria, talking about crazy people, Victoria Jackson is the friend in the movie. You get to see both of their butts.
Okay,
that's really about all I remember that, and I remember Andrew Dice Clay becoming a good guy by the end of the movie, and them ending up together.
Okay.
I talked about it.
Okay.
There you go. Now write the remake, Casual Encounters?
Yeah, with an exclamation point.
Of course. Casual Encounters.
Right.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies to watch at Halloween is Lady in White.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Really wonderful atmospheric ghost story, old-fashioned ghost story. Lucas Haas, a little kid in elementary school, sees a ghost. He gets locked into a closet in his school by school bullies and wakes up and sees a ghost of a little girl who was murdered many years ago. And it's I love that this is I have a genuine fondness for movies that are filmed in the fall and really capture that fall feeling, that fall look. And this is one of those movies that really captures the Halloween atmosphere perfectly. So yeah, I always love this movie.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you think about what we were basically growing up with horror-wise in the 1980s. If you just go 80 to 88, for example, a movie like this was like a complete change of pace, such a complete, yeah. Like I mean, if you could go back and watch a lot of the old classic ghost stories and things like that, but even some of the haunted house movies we probably were seeing around that time were bloody and nasty and whatnot, and this was kind of elegant and beautiful and whatnot. It was much more. I mean, you mentioned great fall movies, something like Something Wicked This Way Comes, that has an atmosphere along with it, and it's a mystery to boot. And I always remember liking the mystery of it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, leisurely pace, but always interesting and.
Oh
yeah. I just it's great atmosphere throughout this movie too. Yeah,
an underappreciated film. People looking for horror movies.
One of those that
every
took
year.
a while to kind of come out in a proper format, right? If I'm not mistaken. Oh, I thought it was out of print for a while.
It was out of print on DVD for a while, but the DVD that came out was very good.
And it's on Blu-ray now as well.
Yeah,
I should pick that up then.
Anybody watch Sunset? Anybody ever see Sunset?
I saw Sunset back in the day.
Yeah, it's not very good.
No.
This was Blake Edwards' ode to old Hollywood with Tom Mix and Wyatt Earp teaming up to solve a mystery. And it's played by James Garner and Bruce Willis. And this is a great idea for a film. A really great idea. But boy, is it dead on arrival. I mean, this thing just lays there. I mean, forget about it. It's not, if you're looking for a laugh out loud comedy, it's not going to deliver. But even as in the terms of just the energy of it, it just sits there. And I think a big part of that is Bruce Willis is really miscast in this film because he just doesn't have that sort of old Hollywood persona that would translate well for this kind of film. He just doesn't. He's in the late 80s. Bruce Willis is, an 80s very modern, yeah, and it just doesn't work here. And he can't maintain an accent. A couple scenes where he's trying for an accent, and he just kind of gives up at one point. And you can tell, like, Blake Edwards has a real fondness for this time period, but yet he still manages to cast the worst Mae West impersonator ever in this movie. Dermot Mulroney it's his debut in a movie. It's his first
as Mae West.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's why it didn't work. I don't know why it didn't work. Interesting. But yeah, it was a huge bomb, and when you watch it, you can see why. So,
yeah.
I just mentioned Paris, Texas.
Yeah, you did. You did.
And my second favorite Wim Wenders movie is Wings of Desire.
My favorite Wim Wenders film.
As well it should be.
Probably now, after going back and revisiting all these movies, probably my favorite film of the year now.
Ooh.
I absolutely love this movie now. And it took me a while to love it.
That's true. It did take me a couple of viewings to really warm up to it.
Well, I have an interesting story about going to see this thing. This girl in high school, who I'm still friends with to this day, we went out on a date in high school, and this movie was only playing at the Fine Arts Theater downtown Chicago, which was across the street from the Art Institute. And this was the first time I'd ever taken a date, like, on a train to go downtown to go to a movie. It seemed pretty epic, and I felt pretty awesome about that. That this is like going to be we're not doing dinner and a movie. I'm going to take you downtown to see a
So
movie.
did you do it because it was at the Fine Arts, or did you do it because you want to see the movie?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I mean, I had no choice. I really wanted to see this film, and I could only see it at the Fine Arts.
Okay.
And we got there a little bit late, and we walked in, and we watched about 5 minutes of it, and we're just like, I have no idea. I'm not ready for this. Or, it's like, I had that feeling in my head. I'm like, I thought I was ready for every kind of art house film. I thought I was Mr. Sophistication. I'm watching 5 minutes of this, like, I'm lost. I have no idea what's going on. I can't follow this. And we just both decided to leave. And so we ended up seeing, we looked at what else our choices were. We ended up going to see a movie we'll talk about later called Track 29.
Oh, boy.
So,
oh, boy.
But luckily she's cool. Like, she's into art house stuff and weird stuff like me. So, like, that's why we were a good match.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was my introduction to Wings of Desire. Watched it on video eventually many years later. Liked it. Didn't quite connect with it. Watched it again, still kind of not connecting with it, but admiring it for a lot of things. Watched it a month ago. I'm now, this thing is way in my wheelhouse, and I'm absolutely ready for it.
I can totally see why. And
yeah,
I like the remake. I'm one of the few.
I haven't seen the remake since it first came out, so I have no. But it's a different movie. I mean, it's a totally different animal. It really just takes the whole concept of it and sticks to it as a simple love story narrative. Whereas this movie is about Germany. It's about, you can't make,
that's true.
He made this movie
huge
with
political and sociological things going on in this movie.
Oh yeah. It's very much all fits in with the themes of the movie of dislocation and duality and everything. And there's just nothing like it. And the movie was kind of pretty much improvised in a very sort of Terrence Malick-y kind of way, and I think that's the reason why I love it now. And because they had no script, and but there were like monologues that were written. The very stream of consciousness monologues for characters to say, because it's about these two angels who are eavesdropping on people and hearing their inner thoughts that they wouldn't speak out loud. And it's just with the music of it, the black and white cinematography is stunning.
The Nick Cave performance.
The Nick Cave
So
is awesome in it. Yeah, I mean, it's just everything about this now. This is a classic example of a movie that I just wasn't ready for in 1988. I just wasn't there yet. But now, as an adult, I watch it, and it's like, I love every single thing about this movie.
Yeah. That's when it does take some time.
Yeah.
I think for most people. I don't know if it's instant love right away. Unfortunately, the sequel is not very good, but it's named after my favorite U2 song.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and that took a while for it to come out because I think they were waiting for the wall to come down, and then now it's a different film. So,
but yeah, no, Wings of Desire.
I'd be curious to go back and
masterpiece.
watch Far Away So Close again because I haven't seen it in a long, long time. I don't remember much about it. So, yeah, I know that's what I hear.
Eric, what do you think?
I like it.
Okay.
I can't top that. No.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I know it must sound absurd, but I can hear the most melancholy sound I ever heard, and I'm walking to eternity.
Happy, everybody's happy.
Right.
Happy, everybody's happy.
Right.
2 days after my 10th birthday, the movie Shakedown came out, and I didn't see it until recently. And I think it's fun.
It's a fun...
It's a dumb, fun movie.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, but it's fun.
Yeah.
The alternate title of the movie should be No Consequences.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much.
It is, it is... the fact that Sam Elliott almost causes 9/11 in 1988... He does. He almost causes 9/11 in 1988. It's just like...
Dangling on a plane.
The thing is about Shakedown is, I mean, it was directed by Glickenhaus. I was just talking about this on my podcast, actually. And he had done kind of a series of exploitative action movies in the 80s, but low budget, the kind of Ken Wall is in and stuff. So this was sort of this big sort of studio financed action movie, and there's really fun stuff in the movie. I mean, the action scenes are actually very well done.
Oh yeah,
you put an action sequence on a roller coaster scene is really fantastic.
Great payoff at the end with what the cops does too.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's fun stuff. I mean, it's one of those movies where if you're in the line of fire, you're getting shot. It's just it's kind of crazy. And Sam Elliott busts into the police station, kills 2 cops. No one says anything. Into the police station, he kills 2 cops in the interrogation room, and no one. Like I said, it's called No Consequences. Alternate title Shakedown, and it's unfortunate that it has that really great stunt at the end with the airplane and the car, and then there's a shot of Sam Elliott hanging off the plane. That is the only shot in the movie. All the stunts are right there on screen and everything, and there's that one shot of Sam Elliott on the wheel that is that is green screened to death, and it's so out of place because everything else has been right there and it's happening in front of your eyes, and it's just that one shot is hey, and I'm like, well, no, and then look out for the towers. Oh boy,
I know it's pretty crazy the way things wrap up, but they have great chemistry together. They're a lot of fun.
Oh
to
yeah,
watch.
Weller and Elliott have a lot of fun, and all brand new Blu-ray from Shout Factory came out. Just a couple weeks ago. So and it looks good too.
Yeah. All right.
So the only other movie I have highlighted for May, I don't know if you guys have anything else to talk about, is Willow, which was really supposed to be this, big. I mean, they had a lot of high hopes for this film. I mean, it was George Lucas's story, Ron Howard directing. It's a big epic fantasy. And it just laid an egg. It just kind of... It's not Howard the Duck level bad or anything, but it is... No. But it just kind of... Everybody just shrugged it off and was pretty indifferent. And I think one of the reasons why, other than it being very overlong and bloated and just all the characters are kind of derivative of other films from this genre, even Star Wars, is just by this time this genre had already been dead and gone.
Yeah, the fantasy.
Yeah, the big
genre.
epic quest fantasy. That sort of I think ended right around Legend or Labyrinth.
Was Princess Bride
giant bombs?
I don't think. Princess Bride
that's different. It's more of a comedy.
Yeah. But no, this is. So I think this is. Timing is part of the reason why this one just didn't quite register with audience. It wasn't a huge disaster or anything. I'm looking at the
it made
box office.
Money.
It was a really expensive movie, though.
Yeah.
At the time, though. So I think it doesn't look. The numbers don't look bad, but I think they were worse. Because it was a very expensive production.
Yeah, there's a lot of special effects. It's a very special effects heavy movie. You got two characters who are like 3 inches tall, who are in a lot of scenes. And it's just big production, bringing this world to life. But when you got George Lucas and Ron Howard at the helm, well, they can pretty much do whatever they want. But that's the problem.
Yeah, I remember seeing this when I was younger. I went, it's all right. And I rewatched it again and went, it's all right.
It's one of those movies that I want to defend,
Sure.
but I can't bring myself to say the words about it. Because I like Val Kilmer in it. I like the score in it. I think some of the action scenes are nicely done. When you watch it today, you just go like, wow, Lucas really ripped off Lord of the Reings.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. No, for sure.
And yeah.
That's the reaction
I defend Ron Howard.
Like,
I do my best to defend George Lucas at times. That was not a great run, 86 to 88 post Jedi.
No.
Labyrinth was a huge bomb. Howard the Duck, obviously.
I didn't know Labyrinth was a huge bomb.
Huge bomb.
Wow.
Huge
That's another
huge
one that
disappointment.
just everybody
huge bomb.
loves now.
Not a movie. Great artistry in that movie, but the plot and it's kind of a drag at times to sit through.
Yeah.
And Willow, you say the same thing about.
Right.
So was the biggest film of the year Crocodile Dundee 2?
Was it the biggest film?
No.
That's not the highest grossing film.
No.
Okay.
No.
But I remember
it was...
the weekend, it was Crocodile Dundee 2 and Rambo 3 came out on the same weekend. And I still, to this day, haven't seen either of these films.
You're kidding me.
No, I haven't seen them.
Really?
I'm
a Rambo guy.
I wouldn't say revisit them, but I thought maybe just by chance.
But remember, by this time I'm in high school. I don't, just like
Mr.
neither
Track 29 over
right.
here.
Exactly. That's what I was. But I also didn't read a single good review about either of these films, and I was like, all right, never mind, I'll skip them.
But somebody on eFilm Critic, and I forgot who, but they put Rambo 3 in their top 10 of 1988, and I was really surprised.
They must not have seen a lot of movies.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was like,
It's crazy. It's like we skipped a lot of movies in May, and I'm looking through the list, and this only confirms the fact that I rented a lot of movies, or at least caught them when I showed them on cable, because I think I've seen all of these low rent movies that we're not even talking about.
I've seen Friday the 13th Part 7, but I'm not defending that one.
No. It's please. Rambo 3. Rambo basically solves the Afghani conflict in that movie with Russia, and that's kind of cool. And it also has the great self-surgery scene in the movie where he gets a bullet and he takes the casing out of the bullet, and he puts the gunpowder in there, and then the flame shoots through his stomach. It's a good special effect. It's fun.
I remember seeing that in the theater and going, "Whoa!" And just like
of all the Rambo films, it's the least. Rambo, the newer one is so ridiculous. I kind of enjoy it.
Yeah,
and Rambo: First Blood Part 2, I think, is pretty well made. Cosmatos directed both of those movies. I prefer First Blood Part 2 to Rambo 3.
Right. But Rambo 3 is.
And it's kind of if you've seen Hot Shots Part 2, it's kind of hard to watch Rambo 3 now. It really is.
He never draws first blood. He only fights back. The first time was for himself. The second time was for his country. This time,
Rambo, something went wrong.
it's for his friend.
Trump was a good man, and I'm really very sorry.
You're just leaving him?
What do you expect us to do? Send in a Delta team? Create an international incident?
What about me?
By the way you look, I can see you have no experience in war, do you?
Fired a few shots.
That if you're captured, we'll deny any participation or even knowledge of your existence.
Sounds familiar.
Who is
For sure.
See, this is why I haven't seen it. This
Or
is
the
what, this is
U-
what I've been
the,
hearing from everybody. It's
yeah.
like it's not very good.
And
Okay, well
Crocodile
then I'm
Dundee
not going
2
to watch it
is
then.
Not no.
It's also
Yeah, and I don't need-
It's also that's what Weird Al Yankovic parodied.
Yeah.
In
Yeah,
UHF.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely Rambo 3.
Yeah.
So, a really nice weekend afterwards, though, I think.
Oh yeah.
You got Big, Tom Hanks. Finally, we got the body switching thing really right. It's not really switch, but it's the same general. When you look at the trailer, it seems pretty much like the same kind of concept, where a boy wakes up as an adult in an adult body and has to sort of live life as an adult. And they finally got it right. They finally got the formula.
Oscar-nominated performance.
Yeah,
And-
which was a big surprise for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody expected this thing to be a big hit because there had been 3 or 4 movies with the same general concept that were not very good.
The third this year.
Right, exactly.
You briefly mentioned 18 again. We talked about Vice Versa, and then the year
Yeah.
before was Like Father, Like Son.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so...
They were getting mostly better.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah,
Not
but I mean, they were panicky before this movie came out because of all those films that had come out in its wake. But they had really great screenwriters for it, and James L. Brooks was the producer on it. So and Penny Marshall, I think this was her second film,
Jumpin' Jack Flash.
That was right.
Yeah.
And it just was like really beautiful, warm, really sensitive comedy. And I think there's things about it that I know are kind of hard to swallow, particularly a love scene.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray has an extended cut of the film that runs over 2 hours, like 2 hours and 10 minutes.
Okay.
And I actually think that's the better version.
I've never seen that version. I've never seen that version.
It really does a better job of fleshing that whole relationship out between Tom Hanks and Elizabeth Perkins.
McGovern. I'm joking.
No, you're not going to get me. And it does it fleshes out a lot more stuff and makes it a better film. Normally, I'm not a fan of extended cuts of movies. Usually the theatrical version is the better version, in my opinion, on most films. But in this case, I actually do think the extended cut helps a lot of stuff. But I think Big is a really wonderful film anyway. So
It is. Just cut the love scene. It's really kind of creepy.
It is creepy
when you think about it.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, when I was a kid, I really didn't think about
right. Neither did I. Yeah,
aspect. But now I'm like, ugh.
And there's also a great scene with between Robert Loggia and Tom Hanks, where that in the extended cut, where they're just working late one night, and Robert Loggia talks about why he got into the toy industry, and it's such a beautiful scene. It's like one of Robert Loggia's best scenes ever. So
yeah, and every now and then during meetings, I kind of just want to go, I don't get it.
Yeah.
This is like the
John
one film
Hertzberg's.
in like all the films that I've ever seen that I feel the worst about not liking more. And just for some reason, it's never quite connect. I think it's sweet, and it's to me, it's like the definition of fine. Every time I see it, I adore Tom Hanks. I think the movie, has its heart in the absolute right place. It doesn't overplay its hand too much, but it's light on laughs. I think it's not going. I know it's not going for giant laughs and things, but every time I watch it, I'm just like, that's fine. Now I'm curious. I want to watch the extended cut because maybe that's now more fine.
Yeah, I crack up at him eating caviar.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the classic scene.
Yeah, there's a lot of good Tom Hanks comedy in this. But yeah, I mean, I guess for the most part, I've never been like over the moon about it. I think it's very good, very good. I mean, like, I feel like the sentimentality of Penny Marshall isn't as overbearing as maybe some other films that she's done, but like there is one montage late in the film where he's like walking through his old neighborhood and the music
Seeing
is
the
swelling.
kids playing and
stuff.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Well, those are the moments I like the most in the movie. Actually.
And that's about it. But I like it when I like him and hanging out with his best friend and everything.
Sure.
Yeah. And
Also has a movie that has an F-bomb. in a PG
That's
movie.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Good call. No, it's very good. It's
Yeah.
charming.
And then another surprise movie that I think is really funny is Funny Farm.
Absolutely.
Please.
Absolutely hilarious.
Hey, there's our movers.
Chevy Chase is leaving the city to live in the country,
See you up there. Who the hell is that? How should I know?
surrounded by Earth's little living treasures.
Mosquito.
With room to roam for his loyal dog. Is it alive? A place where he can bond with nature.
Oh! Ah!
And hook up with a few close friends. Where people take pride in their jobs.
That maniac is our mailman.
Where home is safe and secure. Where all the food tastes like mom's. And all the neighbors treat you like family.
I have good news. We've decided to stay.
Chevy Chase.
It didn't look funny from the trailer. It has a crappy poster. It really does.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
Couple crappy posters, actually. Different posters for that film. But and so it looks like a dumb Chevy Chase comedy. But it's really funny. And it's not because of Chevy Chase. I mean, Chevy Chase is basically playing it straight throughout the film, which is not normally his thing. There's like maybe 2 moments where Chevy Chase is doing his Chevy Chase thing, where he's improvising something that is very Chevy Chase-like. And it kind of doesn't work. But directed by George Roy Hill, who's a very accomplished director. Really funny script and really funny supporting characters populating
Yes,
this
that
town.
is wonderful.
Yeah, and it's just there's so many characters in this movie that I love, particularly the mailman. Is probably my favorite character, especially when he comes in at the end.
Yes.
The final stretch of this film is brilliant.
Yeah.
Trying to convince these weird, so almost Stephen King-like locals to start behaving like they're in a Norman Rockwell painting, and they all
For cash. for money. Yeah.
And the way they go about doing this is so funny. When the mailman shows up, God, I laugh straight through that scene when he comes into the house.
Yeah, when they're all visiting the restaurant and everybody all turns in unison and says, Merry Christmas! And yeah, it's a delightful movie. It's very funny throughout.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, like there's just moments in here that I either quote or just vividly remember, even though I haven't watched it like every year or something. It's just that there's a lot of comedic standouts throughout. I mean, when he's on the phone and like talking to the operator,
right? Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, no, they're just great bits throughout this whole movie. His dog.
Oh God!
The different dogs he gets.
If you watch the trailer that Collin referenced, it seems like a Chevy Chase trailer. It's like all slapsticky stuff, and he's getting hurt and running into stuff, physical comedy, right? But it's because the movie is so subtle. I think is one of the reasons why it didn't do very well, because exactly it wasn't like the trailer people were expecting. It's a weird, dark movie about city folk going to country life, and everyone thinks the country life is so idyllic, but now they get there and everyone's horrible and they don't mesh and everything, and stuff, even little things like the movers getting caught on the bridge and and his wife stealing all the food from the picnic basket behind his back, and of course the home fries.
Oh God!
The lamb fries scene
Well, they got trouble,
is one of my favorite. This might be my favorite scene in the movie.
Yeah, that's great.
A great punchline, and always makes me hungry. It's weird, but it always looks good.
Yeah,
always looks good to me.
Really does.
But no, it is. It's an absolute gem.
It is.
Any of you guys ever see The Decline of Western Civilization?
Yeah, I like part 2 even more.
Oh my God! I saw it. I'd never seen it before like a month ago when I watched it.
Spheris,
documentary about the heavy metal scene in the 80s, and wow. I love this.
Is right.
Wow, is this a fun movie? And sort of painfully fun, painful to look at, and yet it's like, this actually happened. This is a real thing.
Yes.
This is what the 80s metal scene was like. Everybody was thinking they were going to be the next Robert Plant or Jimmy Page. Chris Holmes, the guitar player of Wasp, sitting in his swimming pool, getting like hammered in front of his mom, and his mom is just sitting there going, "Why didn't he pull out? Why didn't that guy pull out when I, now I'm stuck with this guy for a son." Oh my God. And Paul Stanley being surrounded by groupies in their underwear when he's laying in his bed. It is unbelievable, this movie.
Yeah.
People got to go check this one out.
I bet it's absolutely more fun now than it was. Back then, I remember not being received very well, and because we were right in the middle of that stuff. So it was like, why are we documenting this? Because it's right there in front of us.
Yeah.
But now, as a time capsule,
oh my God,
it's probably I would be interested in looking at it now.
Great.
The Decline of Western Civilization, Part 2, The Metal Years.
Yeah.
People got to seek that one out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can watch Heavy Metal Parking Lot with that. Or
I think so.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Anvil.
Anvil's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely, that's a great triple feature right there.
Yeah.
Right there.
I watched Big Business a couple years ago. I don't even remember specifically why.
It's not very good.
It's okay.
I watched it, a few weeks ago.
I like it okay.
Fred Ward.
I know, Fred Ward's funny.
Fred's funny in the movie.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little Robert Zemeckis trick shots in it with the twins coming in and out of elevators. It's got a couple. I wrote down here. It's got a couple Gilmore Girls echoes, a couple things that I think Amy Sherman Palladino took from this movie and put into Stars Hollow.
Is Edward Herman in this?
I think he is actually.
Huh.
I
remember him being in it. So
I think he is. But it was twins was another big theme for this year. We got two more twin movies coming up, and this was one of them. So
right. I saw that on a double feature with the movie that came out the year or the week after that, Big Business and The Great Outdoors. I saw a double feature at Elk Grove Cinema, and I like Big Business more. Although there are moments in Great Outdoors that I find funny, because if you've ever had an uncle like that a bit, there are things in it that are a little close and personal to me when I watch another Dan Aykroyd movie, obviously, and I know it's not. I mean, this one is, if you didn't get that stuff out of Funny Farm, the physical stuff, you get it all in Great Outdoors, and it's John Hughes. John Hughes wrote this one. Okay, so not
also a June film.
But I'm willing to I don't know why I am to some degree. I like Poltergeist 3 a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it a little bit. I like Gary Sherman as a director. I think he does some inventive things with the mirrors.
Take care of her for a minute, please.
Collin! Collin!
It's okay. Carol-Ann.
Bruce!
Carol-Ann! 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 Carol-Ann!
It's not scary. And it doesn't have...
That seemed to be a prerequisite for a Poltergeist movie, maybe.
Maybe. But I think it's one of those movies, I watched it a lot as a kid, and...
You watched the movie a lot as a kid.
I kind of did, yeah. All of them, I think I did.
Okay.
Yeah. And maybe it just it takes place in the John Hancock Center. Well, it doesn't really.
Yeah.
But still, I think there was something about it, and also just the way this movie ends is actually, obviously very sad, given the fact that its main star died before they can even get that final shot in.
Because of a scene attributed in this movie. They say that there's a scene in the movie where she gets dragged into a puddle.
Yeah.
In the movie. And they attributed her getting pneumonia as a result of filming that scene.
She was misdiagnosed with something else.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a sad story for Heather O'Rourke. But
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a weird movie. There's a lot of weird things that I don't understand, and not a whole lot of it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I kind of still like it.
It was fun. I actually met Gary Sherman last year at Cinepocalypse at Music Box. He was there,
huh.
And I had to keep remembering. It's like Dead and Buried, not Poltergeist, not Poltergeist, not Poltergeist.
He also did Lisa, which is great. We'll talk
I know you're a
about
fan of that.
years.
You're a fan of that movie too.
We'll talk about that in 2 years.
I'm a big fan of Bull Durham.
Well, who isn't?
Yeah, of course.
Well,
it's amazing.
Bull Durham.
Bull Durham's great.
Yes.
Yeah. That was my discovery of Tim Robbins, I think.
It may have been mine. It may have been mine too.
I saw Cadillac Man first. Maybe I don't know.
You did not see Cadillac Man before Bull Durham. Calumet was 1990.
Well, I'm younger too.
I know, but
R-rated.
You probably didn't catch up.
Were you a sports guy? Were you? A baseball fan?
Yeah, I liked
as
it
a
fine.
kid?
I've always been like, okay. I'm okay with sports, but not like gung ho like some people.
So you wouldn't have that that connection to it being a baseball movie when it's
No.
not entirely. I mean, it's a movie about baseball that's
Right.
not really about baseball.
Right.
I mean, it's not Field of Dreams. Obviously, I cried like a baby.
Well, yeah,
But,
sure.
you know, like,
That's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
But I'm not a big sports guy, not a big baseball guy, but I love this movie, and that's one of the things I love
it's
about
great.
it is that it's written by a guy who clearly knows that world.
Yeah.
And it's like very specific about things that and I always appreciate about any movie that is like that.
Didn't he just direct something recently?
Just getting started.
Oh no.
Yes, sir.
But this is Ron Shelton's directorial debut, and Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon. Really sexy comedy. I mean, this is like they have some really amazing chemistry in this film. And it's also just really funny. Like a lot of the supporting characters, really colorful, really funny. And it just I don't know if it would hold up today for some audiences.
In what respect?
Well, just the last half of it. I mean, like basically Sarandon's character.
Oh,
you know what I mean? You know
well,
what I'm
from the
going with
beginning,
this?
she is a groupie,
Right.
essentially.
Yeah.
And what part? I mean, just the fact that
she doesn't really have.
But she's
much,
in control. She's in control of.
She's in control of things, but what I'm saying is like there's not much more to her than being this groupie / mode of inspiration for these players.
Right.
She's not. There's not much to her being her own person in any other respect. Once in a while she's a teacher, she says.
Right.
But yet she has this gigantic house.
Yeah.
Like what's that about? So like I think this movie would get a lot of criticism today by modern audiences who are looking for something a little more forward thinking from their female characters, because I don't think this plays well.
I see where you're going with this
in that way.
Because there is kind of a shallowness to her,
right?
Because I mean, she's very in control of her body and what she wants out of the relationships and whatnot. But she may be someone who has not quite achieved a certain level in life, and like if she's just a substitute teacher, whatever she says she is in the movie, that she hasn't risen to a level that gives her anything more than the love she has of baseball and the what she gets out of that.
Right. So I think that's a character that was definitely of its time. I don't think it would translate well for a lot of audiences today. I can get past it because this is a film that I saw as a youngster, and I appreciate so many other things about it, but I think there's some things about it that I keep it from being, treated as a classic. You know what I mean? So, but I still love watching it. I think we should skip down to the bottom of June and then back up a little bit, and before we take a break.
I agree, because July is a good middle point.
Yeah,
that's
so
what we did last time.
I was gonna jump ahead to Coming to America.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the big Eddie Murphy comedy of the summer, and a big improvement over his last two films from '87, Beverly Hills Cop 2 and Eddie Murphy Raw. Although this isn't a great Eddie Murphy film, it's
still too long.
It's too long, but there's things about it that still make me laugh today.
Oh yeah,
and there's a sensitivity to it that I appreciate. That is kind of Eddie Murphy showing his more softer, more sensitive side, which was kind of new at the time. And I even think Arsenio Hall is funny in it.
Yes, I know it's amazing.
So yeah, there's it's kind of it's kind of a mixed bag of flaws and strengths, but it's okay.
I just realized that I do love Trading Places, so there's a Dan Aykroyd performance that I don't mind. And again, John Landis did Coming to America, and there's a lot of great scenes.
Yeah, and it was really the first time that we saw Eddie Murphy, playing multiple characters.
That's right,
You know,
yeah.
so that was
In the
so that was
barbershop.
new at the time, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of. I mean, there's nothing unfunny about the barbershop scenes. Every barbershop scene is fantastic, and it does. I think there is a sweetness to the movie that I don't think we'd probably seen until maybe Nutty Professor, I guess, and. Yeah, it's to me at the time I thought it was a great comedy. It's not quite held up, the seams of it, but I still quote the hell out of it.
Sure.
I mean, him as the singer at the church
Sexual
function.
chocolate?
Sexual chocolate.
Sexy chocolate!
I thought it was the trash.
Yeah.
I think Coming to America is a very, very funny movie.
Yeah, it's quite good.
But then we get was this the highest grossing film of the year?
No,
that we're going to talk
actually.
about.
I'm
Nope.
pretty sure it was not.
Well, it should have been.
Yeah.
Robert Zemeckis' masterpiece, Who Framed Roger
Never heard.
Rabbit?
It was second, and Coming to America was third.
Okay. This was a groundbreaking film. That when you watch it today, it still has all everything it accomplishes visually is still amazing to watch. Especially more amazing to watch today because this is pre-CGI.
Mm-hmm.
And
The techniques involved.
The techniques involved were just a lot of animatronics on the sets to simulate the animated characters that Bob Hoskins and other cast members are interacting with, as if they have to pretend that they're there. And it's this was one of the unfortunate oversights on the part of the Academy was not awarding Bob Hoskins with a Best Actor nomination because if he doesn't believe anything that's in front of him, that's not in front of him, we don't believe it either.
Right.
And it's absolutely seamless and one of the great
impeccable performance with him acting to nothing with nothing next to him.
Yeah. Or reacting to a mechanical arm that's
yeah.
smashing plates or something like that, and
like stand-ins and stuff. But yeah, it's funny because I just for some reason thought this came out towards the end of the year. Like my memory of it, that's the thing with memory is that I just imagine maybe after Thanksgiving I saw this movie, and in wintertime when it's colder out or whatever. But yeah, no, this came out in the summer. I saw it opening night, and I remember being really creeped out by Christopher Lloyd towards the end of this film. I think it's really creepy.
Roger Rabbit and a down-and-out private detective.
Stay out!
Named Eddie Valiant.
Ooga booga!
Every moment they were together was a new adventure in trouble.
Hide me, Eddie!
It's a motion picture about friendship.
Take it easy! Help me! Please, Eddie! Don't show me out! You're making a big mistake!
Love. Compassion.
All right, I'm sorry I yanked your ears.
All the time you yanked my ears?
Murder.
Marvin Acme. The rabbit cacked him last night.
Remember, you never saw me.
Sex.
I'd do anything for my husband, Mr. Valiant. Anything.
And violence.
Tunes gets him every time.
With this film that I kind of realized, even at a young age, just the imagination and also Zemeckis' kind of go-for-broke nature when it came to integrating technology into his films, right? Very few filmmakers, obviously Spielberg's one of them too, but just can make you, care about characters in a story, have an emotional arc to everything that's going on, but also just, seamlessly blend, groundbreaking special effects into a film. And even a year later, I was like, how did he make all those Martys into one scene, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
There was just always something about a Zemeckis movie you could be excited about, just in terms of the craft and the technical side of things.
But it was even more so for this one because
Yeah.
you have to think that really you were coming off of basically Back to the Future and Romance of the Stone. Now, obviously, everything we did before that is great too, but it wasn't really until this particular movie that you saw what we now attribute with Zemeckis, and that the groundbreaking stuff, and not just groundbreaking in terms of special effects, but the first time ever that the two leading giants of animation came together for a movie, and just to have cameos of Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny in the same scene together, of Donald and Daffy Duck doing a duet, dueling pianos on scene. Like, this movie does everything right. It's inventive. The Hoskins performance is amazing. It's only 100 minutes long. I mean, the movie, it moves. It plays like it gets the time period right. It plays with history in a way that you don't see as much anyway. Rewriting history in a way, which is a lot of fun. You mentioned the inventiveness about the Toon. I mean, to finish the movie in Toontown and all these things. It's a great mystery. It's a great movie about Hollywood at the time. It has so much going for it. So packs so much in to 103 minutes. I think is what it ultimately runs. It's just I don't know if there have been other movies that have now obviously blended humans and animated films. None of them have done it this well. As much as I love Looney Tunes Back in Action, which is its own masterpiece creation as far as I'm concerned, this is the end all be all of it. I don't know if there will ever be another movie as good as Who Framed Roger Rabbit in what it accomplishes.
Cool World came close.
You shut up about Cool World. Cool World. Cool. Yeah. When we're doing this, I'm going to... Cool World in 1990, when we do the 1991 show, F Cool World, man.
No, I agree.
Every year, the Music Box Theater in Chicago has their noir festival, and I would say, do Roger Rabbit.
Yes.
Roger Rabbit's a great noir film.
Yeah, it is. It is.
For sure.
So...
But this is correct me if I'm wrong. It's a hard movie to get to show.
Yeah, well, Disney doesn't allow, for the most part, retro screenings of the movie. We do these screening things around the city. You can't rent out Disney movies. Nick DiGilio can't get them. We can't get them. It was a miracle last year when the Music Box got to do Sleeping Beauty in 70mm.
Oh, right.
They don't even let that out of the vault, let alone show it anywhere. Yeah. So that was more of a coup than people I think even realized at the time.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I would love to see this on the big screen again. Really.
Yeah.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Join us again next time. Same Kablam time, same Kablam network.